administrator and a couple of board members to come. I think it's 3 minutes late, so give them 2 minutes. Then we'll start. Thank you. We're good. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. I found the gavel, so it was in a box. So I'm very happy to have the gavel. You don't get to use it very often. Our show is on the road. Normally, for you guys that don't come, we usually meet twice a month. We usually meet in the high school media center. So for at least as long as I've been on the board, which is a few years, we've usually had the Indian Hill and Village award ceremony here tonight. So that's the biggest thing we have going on, as well as the Girl Scouts over here. And then I think we have a couple other presentations. So we were just in executive session. Could I get a motion to return to public session?
Move.
Second.
Thank you. Call to order. Opening statement. Oh, you want to do a roll call? Here.
Here.
Mr. Levechi?
Here.
Mr. Kim?
He'll be back.
Here.
Here. Here.
Thank you. Opening statement. Meetings of the board are open to the public and all members of the community should feel free to participate. There are 2 opportunities for the public to speak. The first is at the beginning of the meeting for agenda items only, and the second is at the end of the meeting for other items. Any individual desiring to speak shall give his or her name, address, and the group, if any, that is represented. The presentation shall be as brief as possible, but no more than 3 minutes per individual. There are certain matters that may be brought before the board that cannot be immediately addressed in public. Such matters may be referred by the president to a board committee and/or superintendent for consideration and/or resolution. The board vests in its president or other presiding officer authority to terminate the remarks of any individual if he or she deems it in the best interest of those present to do so. Can we stand for a flag salute, please? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Deborah, I just want to tell you that I'm here. I couldn't get the mic working at that time.
Okay, great.
We hear you. Thank you, Sarika.
Okay.
So, like I said, we have a few presentations tonight. We will start with Dr. Cascone. We'll be recognizing Troop 826, which I think it's the girls over here. Am I right?
It sure is. The troop leaders, and I'd like to just, before I say a few words, and then of course we're going to come up and recognize the girls. And by the way, start talking amongst yourselves as to who is going to be the spokespersons, because I am going to we would like you to speak to the audience here tonight about your project, which was absolutely incredible. When the troop leaders shared it with me, I just instantly knew that I wanted and to ask the board to have you recognized for the amazing work you did in the community. But just want to recognize the troop leaders, Michelle Focus, Gina Marie Messina, and Laura Friedman. Ladies, can you stand to be recognized? And the girls too. Thank you so much.
The troop leader.
Yeah, the troop leaders. Well, yes, yes. There we go. So as we know, volunteerism, one could argue is on the decline. So we remain, board administration remain so appreciative of our volunteer organizations. And you may have heard me speak before. I'm a huge advocate for the Scouts, whether it be, Scouting America or the Girl Scouts. It's truly organizations that work in concert with our mission as a school district. And it's very rare that you have young ladies who move up through the ranks of the Girl Scouts. And I hope to see you get your silver and your gold stars one day, who are not just outstanding young women as well as citizens. So with that, I'm going to come up and recognize you and speak a little bit, very little bit, and then have you appointed your spokesperson? Yeah, okay. It looks like you have, even though she doesn't seem like she wants to do it, but so we'll ask you to do is I'm going to call your name. I'm going to have you come up as a group and take a picture. And then your spokesperson here is going to share with the group the amazing work that you did. Okay, so actually, why don't you come up first and tell the audience? Come on, you can do it. You can do it. Come on, give her a hand. She can do it. Yes. Come on. By the way, I have it. You have some cheat. You have a cheat sheet right here. Go ahead.
th- they partnered with the fashion department at Brookdale Community College to learn sewing skills and created homemade onesies for premature babies at Riverview Medical Center, which they presented during a special ceremony. The troupe also organized a diaper drive to collect essential items for families in need. In addition, they hosted a town-wide event to educate young Girl Scout troops and fun and interactive activities to spread awareness. And yeah.
And so when we talk about Live Holmdel Blue, right? And right? Yes, exactly. And one of the tenets of Live the Holmdel Blue is to be active citizens, to engage in citizenship. And I can't think of a better example of that than the award. The name of the project was Moms in Need, and it was focused on supporting expecting mothers and understanding the challenges they faced. So the girls explored ways, and then more importantly, took action, which is needed more than ever. So again, congratulations. Without further ado, the students who will be recognized this evening. First, Alex Bryceland. Not here? Okay. Brielle Mann. Okay. Third time's the charm. Callista Anastasio. Yay! Charlotte Kim. Elise Ramsel. Not here. Gwendolyn Kane. Haley Zaha. Jordan Applegate. Molly Connolly. Reagan Costello. Reese Powers. Sierra Messina. Sonia Thacker. Skylar Melnick. And Sophia Focus. Can I have the scout leaders come on up as well and take a picture with the girls? So we have certificates for Michelle Focus, Gina Marie Messina, and Laura Friedman for your dedication and leadership to Girl Scout Troop 826 in earning the Bronze Award. The future is bright indeed.
So that'll bring us to our second thing, which is the student awards. Scott, we're doing that next.
Yes, sir.
The only thing I want to say is, so normally, so you have the Girl Scouts here. Over the years, we've never really recognized the Boy Scouts. I haven't been a Boy Scout, but what we've found out is the township usually does that recognition. And I do want to say, like a lot of the Scouts have gotten their Eagle Scout award over the last bunch of years. That, not that we didn't want to recognize them, but I think Dr. Cascone has tried. Over the years we've tried, and I think there's Troop 111, Troop 131, Troop 331, and I did some investigation. I think there's been about 10 or 15 boys that have gotten the Eagle Scout over the last bunch of years. So a lot of times you'll see them at the township meeting, but I just didn't want to miss the opportunity at least to give them a plug, because I know it's a very hard thing to do and it's a very rewarding thing. And, we've had, let's see, 1, 2, 3, Stefanos Thompsonis, Lucian Casatorin, Brian Pohl, Nate Pohl, Dan Hancock, Dylan Sadu this year, Coop Estock this year, Logan Foz, Grant Lynn, Akash Kalu, Matt Matouche, and Harrison Lydell. So a whole bunch every year. We get a bunch. So, congratulations to those boys.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All yours.
Okay. So at this meeting every year at our May meeting, it's one of my favorite meetings of the year. It's when we have an opportunity to recognize a number of our students, really for, mostly academic achievements. There are additional achievements we're going to celebrate within the performing arts. But I think sometimes, there's a sense that, we, over promote this or that. And really at the end of the day, we're an academic institution and we're an outstanding one, through which our students achieve at incredible levels. And I think when you see these awards and you see how our elementary students are performing nationally, I think you're going to be quite impressed. Of course, it doesn't come as a surprise considering that many of them attend this school, which is a national blue ribbon school, by virtue of its performance and student achievement. So we're going to start with Village School, and I'll ask, yes, Principal Barrett and Assistant Principal Faris to come up and join me and assist. Yeah. Okay. And to our tech team, if you want to advance the slideshow, appreciate it. Okay. Okay. So starting out with our Continental Math League results, we had 2 honorable mentions in second grade, Luke Huang and yeah. Are you here, Luke? Come on up if you hear your name called. We'll just ask you to stand up here in front of the board and for a picture. In third grade, Luka Govarenko. And Sophia Smolinski. Okay. Continental Math League second place finishers. In second grade, Arya Verma. In third grade, Sebastian Hu. Christian Incantalupo. Leo Kozlovsky. And Elena Wang. And now our first place finishers and regional winners. In second grade, Krish Dandu. Tyler DeVito. And Keegan Tsai. First place finishers in third grade, Richard Chen. Lucas Harris, and Max Kapranov. Right, moving over to National Language Arts League. These were honorable mentions. In first grade, Brandon Pageon. In second grade, Ziva Admasu. Charlotte Benitez. Tyler DeVito. Priyan Jain. James Kushner. Haley Park. Anjali Shah. Kush Singh. Arya Verma. And Lillian Yu. Third grade, James Brunner. Mila Fung. Lucas Harris. Sebastian Hu. And Catherine Hu. National Language Arts League results, second place finishers. Second grade, Aurora Espinosa. Keegan Tsai. And Yonina Admasu. Second place finisher, third grade, Una Wang. And first grade, Grace Bautista, national winner. First place finisher. And another national winner, national champion, third grade, Juliet Lukasiewicz. Okay. So apparently our third grade is pretty special. Because our entire third grade was a national winning champion in language arts based upon the grade's performance in language arts. So how about one more round of applause for these outstanding young scholars? And yes, absolutely. If Board of Education, would you mind coming up and taking a picture with these amazing kids? Absolutely. Come on up. Thank you. And it's, oh, and this was in order. Okay. All right. Okay. Congratulations, Village School. We're going to move on to Indian Hill School. I'm honored to have Principal Vitale with me here to announce a number of different winners. We're going to start with, we have a lot of opportunities in addition to these academic contests. We're fortunate to live in a county where, whether it's our county commissioners, our freeholders, our assembly people, offer a lot of opportunities for contests outside of our school, artistic and otherwise, essay contests. And our students are terrific and they're motivated, so they go after these opportunities. And of course, our staff is terrific as well in supporting them in that. So this first one is a Monmouth County Fair Housing Authority poster contest. And we actually have a grand prize winner. Grand prize. That means the best. And that is Leo Du. Where's Leo? Well, we were well represented in the on the podium at this event. We had a first place.
Scott, hold on. Leo's coming, right?
Oh, Leo. Oh, Leo.
He was tucked in the back.
In first place, Abigail Lynch. And we had 4 honorable mention placements: Isabella Kravitz, Yuhan Chen, Bianca Laraya, and Brendan Gillespie. Okay. We also had one of our students participate in the Monmouth County Historical Commission 33rd Annual Essay Contest, and we had an honorable mention for an essay that was entitled Together in Ramadan, and that went to Akil Cruz. Not good. So before we get into the New Jersey Math League, we'd like to take a picture with our outstanding contest winners here. So board. Okay, so now we're moving on to our sixth grade region math league team, Monmouth County, first place, gold medal. Okay, so if you're detecting a trend here, yes, our kids are extremely bright. And that has not only to do with our school system, but it also has to do with the amazing people who are assembled here today, the parents and guardians who support them every day. We are very fortunate here in Holmdel. We're going to have to invite Leo Du back up. Come on up, Leo. You're not done. So, Leo, first place in school, tied for third in all of Monmouth County. Third place, all of Monmouth County. Second in school and tied for fourth place in Monmouth County, Jerome Focus. And tied for third in the school, Yuhan Chen and Ethan Chen. So we're going to continue acknowledging our math scholars here with we're going to want to call up our fourth grade Continental Math League team. First up is Bodhi Manjumdar. Sorry. Arya Mala. Ishan Dandu. William Park. Siddharth Polepali. Grayson Pagano. Ella Chang. Srisad Rama Megapotula. Luca Camarda. And Kabir Sirohi. And now for our fifth grade Continental Math League team, Alan Liu. Eling Tai. Vincent Roberts. Ariana G. Bradley Benitez. Chase Lynn. Raphael Lynn Arifej. Jonathan Pageon. Sophia Zhao. And Anand Shah. All right, we have one more math recognition. Don't show the slide yet. Let's some anticipation here. This is pretty incredible. And there's another theme. This is our sixth grade Continental Math League team, top team in New Jersey, top sixth grade team in New Jersey, and top 10 in the nation, top 10 in all of the United States, our sixth grade team, Leo Du. Dylan Mala. Muchen Zhao. Ethan DeVito. Gabrielle Lynn Arifej. Yuhan Chen. Isaac Wu. Ethan Chen. Manish Kashyap. Vikram Gupta. Isabella Kravitz. How about another round of applause for our outstanding and first place New Jersey state champions and top 10 national placers. Board, if you'd join me again, please. All right, guys. Okay. We're going to start with our, now moving into science, our National Science League fourth grade team top finalists. Quinn Torrens. Thaddeus Polney. Dhruvi Patel. Grayson Pagano. Bennett Semmel. Nikhil Adada. Martin Vega. Matthew Ludwinski. Clara Luazo. And Krish Desai. Fifth grade top finalists, including ties. Alan Liu. Jakonjur Nuradinov. Anand Shah. Heidi Liu. Jonathan Pageant. Sophia Zhao. Olivia Thompson. And Eling Tai. We now have our fifth grade top finalists in the national competition. Tommy Brunner. Walker Sanders. And William Fabrizani. And now our sixth grade team. These were top finalists in the nation. Manish Kashyap. Julian Z. Mackenzie Mach. Joshua Price. Stephen Abud. Yuhan Chen. Muchen Zhao. James Betancourt. Ethan DeVito. Luka Fatovic. Emma Djokovic. Isabella Kravitz. Nishant Molis. Scarlett Surovitz. And Aiden Tam. Another big round of applause for our national science scholars. And Board of Education, you're getting your exercise tonight. So if you'll do us the honor, we appreciate it. Thank you. Now, before I call up Dr. Harretts from the high school, just a couple of points of clarity. You might be thinking to yourself, what about the middle school? Well, the middle school does their own designated awards night. I believe it's coming up shortly, next couple of weeks. So they'll be recognized there. And of course, our high school does a pretty extensive senior awards night as well. But these are awards that wouldn't necessarily appear in a senior awards ceremony, but that nonetheless absolutely merit a high degree of acknowledgement and public recognition from the board administration. So with that, I will invite Dr. Harretts up to assist me in the presentation of these awards. Okay, so if you'll indulge me, I want to give a brief preface to the acknowledgement of our high school robotics team. So certainly prior to when I got here, the previous board, of which Mr. Reddy is still a member, and of course the community approved. Mr. Stromslin was our director of buildings and grounds, who oversaw the construction of the 2020 referendum. And one of the thrusts of that referendum was to sort of future-proof our schools, right? And yes, we know you all have busy lives, so while we would love for you to stay, we also understand if you have to move on. So thank you for coming. Congratulations. One of the thrusts of that referendum was to create a state-of-the-art facility in our high school. If you have not had an opportunity to visit our high school through an open house, I hope you have the opportunity to do so soon and see our applied technology and engineering wing, which is the relatively new home of our robotics classes and our robotics team. I'd like to acknowledge former board vice president Linda Zhang, who actually, prior to having the facilities in the high school, was hosting the robotics team in her basement. Okay, I want you to recall that. I want you to remember that. Our robotics team was practicing in a very generous parent's basement. So we've come a long way. We've provided our amazing students and staff with a state-of-the-art facility, and the results are nothing short of spectacular. We now have two high school teams, our Hornet Blue team and our Hornet Silver team. So thank you, Mr. Sugar. So our Hornet Silver team were league champions and top half finish at the New Jersey State Champions. Not bad for a team really only in its third or fourth year of existence. Our Hornet Blue team was also league champions and won perhaps what is the most coveted award at a robotics competition, which is the League Inspire Award winner. And what this award speaks to is the holism of the program, the knowledge of the students, the creativity, the innovation, their sportsmanship in collaborating and sharing with other teams, their ability to problem solve on the day of the competition when their robots experience mechanical difficulties. And so it is great pleasure that tonight we recognize our robotics teams, and we also recognize our outstanding robotics advisors, high school engineering teacher TJ Bocino, and middle school technology teacher Ryan O'Keefe. Starting with the students. Yeah, how about them? Are they here? And now for the students. On Hornet Silver, first is Abdullah Atiya. Rishikesh Bunsi. Neo Ing. Jonathan Stanislavskis. Huh? Rohan Subrahmanayan. Ethan Tai. And Jesse Burden. Even though I said you had order, Jesse. Sorry about that. And now our Hornet Blue team. Leon Du. Brody Larson. Grant Lynn. Also an Eagle Scout, by the way. Ayan Mohammed. Ilya Nitskevich. Havza Osman. Adhitya Padmanabhan. Noah Torrens. And Asad Umarov. Champions, innovators, trailblazers, laying the foundation. By the way, we have an 8th grade team at SATS, and having gone to competitions, I've been really thrilled to see how these high school students are mentoring to our middle school robotics teams and programs. So we have a great feeder program, and the future is bright. Mr. O'Keefe, thank you. To you, Mr. Bocino. Thank you. And it's that time, board. Come on up. This next group of awards go to in the visual and performing arts department, which we absolutely acknowledge and understand as a critical part of our students' experience. And so tonight, the first student we recognize is for a student for outstanding dedication to the Holmdel High School dance program, and that is Lila Brutzi. Lila Brutzi. Yes. Okay. So we have a truly outstanding theater program, really across the board in our school district. If you've seen an Indian Hill production and a SATS production and ultimately high school production, they are fantastic. They are fantastic not only because of our amazing students, there's a tremendous amount of parent volunteers behind the scenes assisting. And then, of course, our visual and performing arts department and our theater teachers and our music teachers are incredible. Dr. DeVivo at the high school, who is a true asset to our school district and our students, has really expanded the opportunities for our student actors, including creating the Holmdel Theater Guild, creating the Thespian Honor Society, and really going to these festivals and capturing honors. In this particular case, it was the Silver Honor Troop Award at the 2026 NJ Thespian Festival. There is no one here to accept this award tonight, so I will accept it on his behalf and on the behalf of the troop. So congratulations to them. Continuing with some of our awards in visual and performing arts, we have a superior rating for contrasting monologues at the 2025 International Thespian Festival. So now we're not only talking about national, now we're talking about in the world, which is pretty amazing. And that is Sofia Primiano. And apparently she's really good at contrasting monologues because she won that again, the superior rating in the 2026 New Jersey Thespian Festival. We also had in theater, and poor Lila is very lonely up here by herself. We appreciate you, Lila. Also, Superior Contrasting Monologues at the 2026 New Jersey Thespian Festival was Adrian Cardenosa. Yeah. Also in theater, Samantha Ayers for Superior Costume Design, 2026 New Jersey Thespian Festival. And then you might be aware that there is something called the Basie Awards, which are organized and sponsored by the Count Basie Theater. It's a really terrific local honor. And we had 3 students that were recognized for outstanding student leadership at the 2026 Basie Awards, and they were Samantha Ayers, Vio Liang, and Sophia Primiano. So congratulations. That's the next group? Okay, so guess what? You get to have a really personal picture with the board, just the 2 of you. Come on. All right. So keeping in the sort of the theme of starting things relatively recently and demonstrating immediate exceptionality in those pursuits is our esports team. You may or may not be aware, I was telling somebody recently, and they kind of were surprised at this, that this is quite a burgeoning, not only it's a career, believe it or not, which is pretty amazing. And it's also scholarships, college scholarships, university scholarships for esports teams. And of course, they have emerged in high school. So this is the 3rd year that our high school esports team has been in play, if you will, under the direction of high school math teacher Michael Moore. We won the overall state championship the first 2 years. We fell just a little bit short this year in the championship match, taking 2nd place in the state. But nonetheless, 2 state championships and a runner-up in the first 3 years is a really tremendous accomplishment. From what I understand, speaking to Mr. Moore, this is a really super tight-knit group. And so the students coming after them, I'm sure that they've mentored well to the younger students, but this is going to be a really difficult group to replace. Really tightly knit, and they, from what I understand, are super passionate about this game. Okay, so our Valorant starters, our starting team, starting with Hunter Komosinski. Duo Zhang. Kinshuk Demarla. Zachary Chang. James Lau. And Michael I. Additional club members who I imagine not unlike the, what they call the scout team in football, are there to challenge and to raise the bar for everyone. Grant Lynn. I know Grant's here. So we have robotics champion, Eagle Scout, and now esports state champion. Nice resume, Grant. Ayan Mohammed. Cameron Lopez. Steven De Jesus. And Cameron Grubb. Okay, boys, you got a nice picture with the board, just the 2 of you. Oh, Mr. Reddy? Okay, so our final student, and thank you again for everyone that came tonight. We appreciate it. And congratulations. So our final recognition is to our Board of Education student representatives. I believe Mr. Reddy was at, how long have you been on the board, Mr. Reddy? Okay, 12 years. 12 years. So I believe you were on the board when the board implemented the student representatives right after. So this is not necessarily something that all boards have, but this board for some time now has acknowledged and recognized the fact that our student representatives, our students have valuable perspective to give. Obviously, it's an opportunity for them to learn about how the school district is governed. They represent the best of the best. That's why they're sitting up here. And I can speak to that personally, knowing them both. Of course, we're not done with you yet, Antonio. Antonio is going to come back next year since he's a junior. Unfortunately for us, Bella Spicer is going to be moving on. We wish her all the best at the University of Tennessee. She is a truly extraordinary young woman. And both of you have done an amazing job. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Board President Reddy. He has a little gesture for you from the board and may offer a few words.
Thank you, Dr. Cascone. Bella, thank you. You've continued a long-standing tradition. We've been really lucky. We've had really good student reps. Antonio has filled in pretty nicely, which is good. But seriously, appreciate all the time you've spent over the 2 years. You've definitely been a leader in your class. I know you're going to Knoxville, so those, like Dr. Cascone said, you go volunteers. So we just got you a card. Wanted to say thank you very much and good luck, and we'll see you at the next few presentations and graduations and everything else. So enjoy the final month of your high school career. So come on up.
So we have a student who unfortunately was a little bit late, but do not want to not have him recognized because he's here with us tonight. Do you have the certificates from Indian Hill? Lisa, it was for the essay contest? Yeah. Okay, so this was the Monmouth County Historical 33rd Annual Essay Contest. Honorable mention for the essay Together in Ramadan. Akil Cruz, come on up. that concludes the recognition portion of the agenda. We'll now get into the remainder. Again, thank you for everyone that joined us tonight. You may feel free to stay for the remainder of the meeting, but you may also feel free to take your leave, enjoy the evening, celebrate, and wish you all the best. We don't see you. Healthy summer and successful close to the year. Good night.
Thank you, everyone. We will take a break for at least 2 minutes. So if you have to do whatever you need to do, you have 2 minutes. Student reps will have a little bit longer. All right, I think we're back. Mrs. Spicer, thank you for staying. Thank you for, you'd be at the track meet right now, so it's not that far. So we do have a presentation from Spiesel Architects, but we're going to pivot because we can. So if I can get the student reps to do one final report, and then we'll move to the architects. Then they can go home and study, because I know there's a lot. I know all the APs are basically done, but if you want to keep studying.
Want me to go first? All right. So wow, look how many people are here today. Amazing. I was gonna say my mom's here, so I have to be like extra good, but she left, so um so some updates. This week was last Friday was Battle of Classes and the juniors won. Yeah, I know. It's surprising, right? Yeah. Oh wow, right? Sophomores and seniors tied for second, and then the freshmen got last, but like that's not surprising. But the juniors won. That's like the cool part about it. As a junior, I'm like super hyped up for my class. Also about the juniors is that junior prom is this Friday. And I'm super excited for that. It is disco theme. Hopefully the kids dance. I don't know. I really can't force them, but because it's disco theme, I'll be like dancing out if you pull up. But I'm kidding. No, I am gonna dance, but don't pull up because it's junior prom. Oh no.
I could pull up. I work in Freehold. I could just pop
Uh-oh.
right there.
Um,
Thanks for inviting me. I'm gonna let everybody know.
all right. You know what? The whole board's invited to junior prom. And then last but not least for me, today was the election for student council positions. And I wish good luck for everyone who ran, including me, but I ran unopposed. So you guys got another year of me. Congrats.
All right, thank you, Antonio. And I just want to comment on the battle of the classes of it all. The juniors didn't even have anyone signed up for events before, and we were all mocking them. Like, no one in your grade even signed up. Where's the school spirit? Like, you guys are going to do so bad.
We
And
play
then they
smart.
won't.
We play smart. It doesn't matter. We know that people are going to show up, and we know they're going to like, what's right for? I want to say ball out, but like,
You have to beg them.
we do have to beg them. But we did win, and
It worked,
it's
so.
pretty cool, you know.
I'm just a little salty, I guess. But in other news at the high school, we did have Relay for Life last Friday. That was last Friday or the
Yeah.
Friday? Yes, sorry, my brain is
No, no,
melting
no.
right now. No, the Friday before.
Yeah.
Yes. So, Relay for Life was great. It was outdoors because we had good weather, so that was really nice. And we were able to raise $38,000 overall throughout the year towards American
I won
Cancer
a
Society.
basket, a raffle basket.
You did?
Yes,
What
I
did you
did.
win?
I won the Yeti cooler.
Oh, that's all.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was great. We had a bunch of people show up. I was pretty happy with the turnout, not just of high schoolers, but from their community. I saw a lot of younger kids, which was great because I know we were trying to extend that this year. And besides that, today was the senior night for track as spring sports are wrapping up. And we just wanted to say congratulations to all the seniors at the Twilight Meets tonight. And also, today we started boys baseball entered the first round of states today, and they will be advancing because they took down the number one seed in the short conference, Rumson Fairhaven High School. So that was very exciting. And AP testing is now done for the most part, besides makeups.
Makeups are done.
Oh, makeups are done?
Everything.
Oh, so I guess makeups ended today. I got all my tests out in 1 week, so I'm happy to be done. And I'm sure all of our students did well, as we normally do. We're pretty prepared. So as the school year wraps up, we're just looking forward to events like the junior prom. Senior prom is next Friday from 6 to 11 at Jocks Reception Center. And our theme is Hollywood. So we have like a little red carpet going in, a balloon arch, all that stuff. So we're really excited. And the seniors have a bunch of fun things coming up, like decision day, senior awards, senior trips, stuff like that. So we're very
Is there
excited.
the sunset? Like,
Yes,
right?
so
You did
our
sunrise
senior-
and now you do
Yeah,
right.
me and
So you
Adam are
start the
planning
year
it.
with the senior sunrise and you end the year with the senior sunset,
Yes.
right?
So last year they decided to do, I think we're going to do the same. We might send an email for input from the students, but we do the senior sunset at the end of the year. And last year they did it on the field, or 2 years ago maybe, and they watched a movie and like wore their college shirts. So we were thinking of doing it the day of decision day, which I believe is
June 10th.
June 10th. Thank you. So that like everyone's already has their college stuff. They come back to the school at the end of the night and we watch it on the football field. So that should be nice.
It's a really nice tradition.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
adorable.
And don't forget you have your walk through the day of last day of school where you
Oh,
go through all
don't
the
remind me.
schools.
I'm gonna start crying.
But that's a great tradition,
Yeah,
you know, besides
it's
the
definitely I think it's very unique to Holmdel. It's one of my favorite things.
we started it like 10 years ago, so I'll give Dr. McGarry credit. We started and we've continued to do it. This will be the last one I walk. I always walk to school with Mrs. Marino, who's not here. Then you got your breakfast, which you said was good, and the boys did win 1-0.
Yep.
So now they'll play the 8-9 seed. Lacrosse plays tomorrow and state playoffs as the
Yep.
number 3 seed, which we like. Girls played softball, first home playoff game in years. Unfortunately, they lost to Bordentown 5-1 yesterday. Tough game, but they
Thank
played
you.
well. Had a
Thank you
great
for your
season.
time.
Had a great
were-
season. They won divisions for the first time like ever.
Yeah.
So, and boys won sectional golf championship, second time ever
Yeah.
in 3 years. So
They got the-
awesome stuff by your class.
Also the lip dub. We forgot to
Oh,
talk
we
about the
do.
lip.
Oh,
So exciting. So Lip Dub, I need to
It
check
goes
my
viral every
calendar.
year, by the way. Like if you go on YouTube and look up Holmdel lip dub, they each have like 300,000
Not
views.
even a senior. He's so proud of this. I'm in the lift up. I'm very excited. It's during our like I think block 3, and essentially for anyone that doesn't know what it is, I remember when I was younger in Indian Hill, our teachers used to, it was like a treat. We would get to watch the Hornet Report or like the lip dub during class, like if we had extra time. And I was like, I can't wait for that day to come. It's really fun. We like lip sync and go around the school wearing funny little outfits, and you pick the songs with your friends. And it's like the whole senior grade does it together and some of the juniors. So it's a fun tradition.
well, the whole school does it, which is so fun.
Yeah,
And you
and
guys
even
obviously
if
lead
you-
it and
yeah, even the
cut it.
underclassmen, like everyone's around the school, like cheering, like if you're in the Spanish Honor Society, if you're on the boys volleyball team, everyone has their own thing they're doing. So it's really fun. It's a
Don't
great
forget
time.
that Dr. Cascone always finds his way into
Yeah,
it.
of
So
course. And Mr. Dowd is in every clip with his chicken. If he does the same.
you
as
do a
last
great job with it. I love it. Keep it going. Any questions for our student reps? Final. You're free to go.
Enjoy your summer.
Yes, congratulations.
Thank
Steve,
you guys so
graduation.
much.
Bella, you could take your plaque too. You can take the whole thing. Bye, Bella. Thank you, Mrs. Spicer. Even though she can drive, we know this. All right, so we have one presentation left. I'm not sure who it is. It's Spiegel Architectural Group on a solar presentation. Bring it on. Did I say it right? Oka? Okay, thank you. The mic is
Ilka,
yours, the floor is yours, and I think there's a presentation that
Ilka, you might, I'm just going to do a little tee up for you. Brief tee up. All right. So, as the board may recall, we started talking about the prospect of the building referendum going back to the fall. And it was understandable that there was a bit of shock when looking at that project, and the scope of it and the cost of it, recognizing that really the lion's share of that expense was going to be for replacing pretty much all of the district's roofs, and then replacing really the better part of the district's HVAC systems. Right? Obviously, we were managing a difficult budget at the time. We're going to be continuing to manage budgets. And so the thought of even going out for such a referendum was inconceivable. The impetus for really bringing it forward at that time, albeit not necessarily the best timing because of those factors, was the fact that our roofs are in a constant state of just repair and patching. The board and the administration understand that we receive emails from concerned parents, and we manage also concerns from our employees in dealing with, when we have to address leaks, and Ken and his team doing an absolutely outstanding job of like whack-a-mole and working with our contractors. But that comes with an expense. Certainly not $90 million, but there is an expense to doing that. Compounding the situation is the fact that we have an expiring solar lease, right? And there's a marriage to some extent between those projects, because we're not going to put new solar on old roofs, right? And we also began to discuss sort of a tangent to that, which was, what are the prospects of community solar? Are there possibilities for us to, through community solar programs, generate revenue? And so, though it seemed like this topic had sort of dropped off the radar, behind the scenes, basically from when we originally sort of tabled the conversation until tonight, Mrs. Donnelly, Mr. Stromslin, in collaboration on legal aspects of it and procurement aspects of it, our board attorney, Mr. Trent, and then, of course, with our board appointed and approved architects of record, Spiesel, and their partners and consultants. We're working on how can we find a path forward that's feasible, that's financially responsible, but that also addresses the compressed timeline of the expiring tax incentives associated with solar projects, which is very real. So there is, to some extent, a time urgency to the deliberations. Now, that doesn't mean that we toss due diligence to the winds and say we have a compressed timeline, so we have to move. And I think that is why, when we presented at the subcommittee meeting, and Olga and Greg presented, and admittedly, it was a lot to process for the committee, understandably. And it was not a terribly long presentation, but 15, 20 minutes. And recognizing that the administration was making a recommendation to the board to place this motion on the agenda, I said to Debbie, we can't just put this on the agenda. And she agreed. I mean, it was a collaborative decision, which was why we invited Olga and Greg here tonight, to give an in-depth explanation, to really the process that's led us to tonight, what it means, what it doesn't mean, to give the board an opportunity to ask. They are fully prepared and briefed to expect questions, and maybe difficult questions, in a hope that we can get at least the majority of the board, ideally the entire board, comfortable with taking this next step forward. But it's not a fait accompli, right? If ultimately we don't have that level of comfort, we can table it and we can continue to discuss. We can set up side meetings, non-quorum meetings with Olga, and to hopefully get to a level of comfort. And could ultimately table it to the June meeting, but understanding that even compressing this by another 4 weeks makes accomplishing it that much more difficult. So with that preamble, floor is yours, Olga.
I'm going to borrow the mic for 1 sec, just because I've been here a while. So Spiesel Architects, for board members that don't know, there's a whole bunch of architects within the state. Spiesel is one of the better ones. Spiesel's been here a long time. History on Spiesel, just because I can talk about it, is years ago, not many people in the room. Art was still here. Lana was still here. We did the 2020 initiative. We started with with SSP Architects, who unfortunately we fired literally 5% into the project. We had a $40 million project. I was like, oh my God, what are we doing? And they did a terrible design. They didn't really do a design, to be honest. And I think you were here, were you not?
I was involved in.
Yeah, I remember you. Greg? No? Okay. I know Steve obviously was here the whole time. So anyway, long story short, Ken, I think, was on board, obviously. And I was like, oh my God. And Greyhawk Construction was our construction manager. And it was $40 million or 39 and change. And we did the paving. It worked out. And we did the fields projects at the high school. And then they stayed outside, and then you guys got hired, and it went swimmingly well. It was a $40 million job. It came in at 38.5, I guess. And we had $1.5 million to do extra work. So we did the commons. I remember we did the commons floor and a few other things. But anyway, for a project that's an infrastructure retrofit, couldn't have gone better, in my opinion, knowing that when you peel back walls of Indian Hill Village and a high school, who knows what could have happened. So, and I can tell you in today's budget time, to do a project like that again, it's going to be that would be a big challenge. So glad we did it. Obviously, we had 15 years of money rolling off the books and all those other things. So it worked out very well. So at least I wanted to, for the board that doesn't know, so they're our architect. We haven't seen them that much in the last couple of years because we really haven't had that many projects to do. I mean, outside of the fire alarm systems, which was something down the road that we'd have to do, we almost accomplished everything we needed to, for the most part, besides the day-to-day stuff. And yeah, the leaky roofs is, that's somewhat of a thing, but just, your world. So thank you.
Correct. Thank you so much for that, very kind. What is that? Can't hear me? Oh, okay. Yeah, all right. That's better. Yeah, thank you for that very kind introduction. It's rewarding to see the engineering lab that was done as part of that project is being used so well. And, today the students and faculties are like very, very happy with how it's designed, and their, accomplishments are rewarding to me since we worked on it. So thank you for that. Thank you, Scott, for the brief on the, background information on how we got to this point. I'm going to keep it brief. So as Scott mentioned, the goal today is to just go over how the ESIP works and, what it does, how you could do it, and, what the advantages are when, district is in the situation like you are, where budget is currently becoming a challenge to address the facility needs, and roofing being the most critical item on the list right now. That may be something that you might want to consider. The presentation we have is very brief. It gives you like an overall idea on what ESIP involves. It's not specific to Holmdel facilities because we haven't really assessed your existing facilities and analyzed that to come up with the specific plan for this district, but it at least gives you an idea on how this program works. So with that, I'm just gonna, change the slide. I understand you cannot see that, but I'll still, okay, you have printed copies. All right, so like I said, ESIP is Energy Savings Improvement Plan. What it is it allows the districts to propose energy saving measures, the projects that are expected to save energy cost over the period of 15 or 20 years, whatever it may be, and do the projects without any capital funds that are required to address those needs. There is no taxpayer impact as part of this plans. Basically, the plan pays for itself. All the projects are paid by the savings that are projected annually. You could bond upfront to do the projects that are expected to save energy cost, operational cost, but then it's also paid by the projected savings. So there is really no impact on your annual budget or taxpayers to get this work done. It's basically a funding mechanism that's self-funding. This slide basically shows what other options you have to address your facility needs. So ESIP is one of them, which does not require any taxpayer impact or any impact on your annual budget, capital reserve, capital funds. Unlike bond referendum and the lease purchase options that are also available, but with the bond referendum, as Scott explained, there is a taxpayer impact that's accounted for. Although you get 40% from the state, there is still a taxpayer impact. You need voter approval, which is not needed for ESIP. Lease purchase is another funding mechanism where you could lease for 5 years and get the projects done. However, it's still an extra burden on your capital budget for those 5 years because it's going to have to be paid from your capital budget. And there is, of course, interest rate and additional cost associated with that, which is an additional cost that the district has to incur. So as you can see, ESIP being the most cost-efficient plan on the screen here, when you're not in the position to propose any bond referendum or increase any tax on the residents. I also have Greg Burns from DCO Energy with me today. So I'm going to let him walk through the details on on these slides for the ESIP. And if you have any questions, please hold until the end of the presentation and we can discuss more in detail. Like I said, we are keeping it high level, but if there's any detailed questions, we can certainly talk about it after this presentation. With that, I have Greg take it over.
Olka, I'm going to disobey you for a moment. It's not a question. It's more just, I think, as we segue to Greg, is maybe just to color in, the collaboration, the relationship that exists between Spiesel and DCO, and what brings Greg here tonight with you.
Sure, yeah. So to be able to start, let's say the district agrees to move forward with the ESIP. First step would be to analyze your existing facilities to see if ESIP makes sense. What we do is we look at your utility bills, we look at your existing HVAC, electrical equipment, lighting, controls. Of course, solar is a big piece out there, which can be incorporated in this plan, and it's like the biggest item that could certainly save you, much more than any other HVAC or electrical improvement in the facilities. So that is certainly going to be part of it. But to be able to start the process, we have to analyze with the energy consultant. Us, Spiesel being your architect of record, we have ability to provide you with that service. We are able to hire energy consultant, and in this case, we're partnering with DCO Energy for a few reasons. They do have professional engineers, DPMC classification, which allows us to hire them as our sub-consultant. Like, typically architects hire engineers for any projects. We can put DCO on our proposal to expedite this process. As Scott said, if you were to put the RFP out for energy service consultant, it requires few additional weeks to put the RFP out, and then you get the proposal. There is evaluation process that has to be defined in the RFP. So there's some time associated with that. The only reason why we are taking this approach is to save that time, and it's just for phase one, which is the initial feasibility study, which is needed for ESIP. Once we put together that initial study and present that draft plan to you, and if you decide to move forward, then the phase two and on the scope of services in the proposal you have comes into play. So right now, the focus is to just study existing building and prepare a plan that's specific to our schools in this district. We have worked with DCO on a couple other projects with a similar format. We're currently doing some projects with Metuchen Board of Education with a similar format. They are also moving forward with PPA, which is Power Purchase Agreement for solar on the roof, with few other projects that are going to be paid, under this plan. Also, Holmdel has shown interest in community solar project. DCO has done a couple projects, one being your neighboring district, which is Hazlitt Board of Education. They have some knowledge in that area, which is also another reason we think it would be beneficial to have their expertise on the project, because that's another piece that could possibly generate additional revenue annually, which you could then apply towards your cash flow or any other projects that you may have on the list. So that's a brief. If you have any more questions, we can certainly answer. But with that, I'm going to turn it over to Greg so that he can walk us through the entire process that's outlined in this presentation. Go ahead, Greg.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. Pleasure to see some of you again. So I'm Greg Burns with DCO. So great explanation, Scott and Olka. Again, the biggest thing if you take away from it, and I said it at the committee meeting, is ESIP is a financing mechanism that has no impact on the taxpayers, right? That's the intent. That's really the benefit of ESIP. Right, Deb, you got to budget $800,000 a year for electric, natural gas, water, sewer. Our job with Spiesel is to find enough energy savings to cover certain costs. I know I talked to Olk about the roofing cost. Obviously, they're substantial. There's solar on them as we speak. So our goal would be to kind of figure out a few measures to remove from that, that $90 million project expenses that you have to incur at some point down the road, and try to take some of those off and make it a more digestible amount, hopefully for the community. But again, it was hit very well. This is really early on in the evaluation stage. We want to figure out and make sure ESIP is in the best interest of the district before we, decide to move forward with that further phase. Next. So how it works, right, is in theory, the district budgets their electric, natural gas, water, sewer spend. Our goal is to find the blue and the green. So the New Jersey Board of Public Utilities oversees the program. They will not approve an energy savings plan without that little green mark at the top there being at least $2,400 a month cash positive. So what that means is we have to find enough to reduce, your 800,000 down to 500,000. You reallocate the $300,000 of savings to fund the ESIP cost or the financing over a 15 to 20-year period. The key thing is that what gets misled sometimes in ESIP, and the big part of it is the energy savings plan we develop has assumptions in it and has certain parameters around it in terms of different items and how they're measured. So it's really an educational thing with the administration throughout the entire process to make sure those energy savings are achieved. But again, it's a financing mechanism intended to reduce your utility spend and reallocate it in your existing budget. Just some typical energy conservation measures, where the savings come from. I know you did lights in your original ESIP. There's building envelope, some HVAC equipment, mechanical equipment, roofing, electrical upgrades. During this initial assessment, we'll look at a good portion of everything to make sure ESIP, there's enough energy savings we can generate to fund a worthwhile project for the district. Then the investment grade audit, when we're getting through that next phase of, hey, these are real projects we're developing with budget scopes, et cetera. This is everything we would possibly evaluate. So I always like to use the example, we may evaluate $10 million worth of upgrades, but only $5 or $4 million are going to self-fund. Again, you could always like, can you do this in ESIP? Can you do that? You can really do anything you want in ESIP as long as it saves energy, and we can find enough energy savings to cover those costs. There is a 15% of non-energy savings measures carve out. So meaning if it's a $10 million contract value, you can use $1.5 million of non-energy savings measures, football helmet money, books, sidewalks. So that's just different things. And that's legislatively driven. That's not SPESL or DCO driven. Any questions in general on the ESIP process to this point, or kind of overview of it?
Can I just ask,
Yeah.
like for that carve out, right? How much of the roof stuff that we would need to do could get funded by that carve out? Because I don't see, maybe, this is not my world at all, but
Yeah.
I'm just trying to figure out if we have this and it's another 15 years and we still have to do $90 million of roof work, how does that get done ever?
For sure. So it's a great question. So roofing is actually, it does not count towards that 15%. So there are energy savings associated with that, with doing roofing restoration. So it wouldn't hurt that 15% threshold at all. So you wouldn't be capped by that. The other part I always like to make clear is in our projects, the energy savings have to cover the cost. Just full transparency, you're not going to be able to rip the roofing down to the decking and do a full replacement. What we typically do is a roofing restoration or a coating. It goes over top of it. It still gives you a 15 or 20-year warranty. You still have different warranty periods, but it's not a full tear off. What we would do initially and up front is we'll do IR scans to test for wet insulation to see where, before we coat it, we have to remove the wet insulation, replace it, and then coat on top of it.
So this is assuming that we want to put solar back on the roof?
So you could do it either way, with or without. The solar power purchase agreement benefit is that if we go out and I'm going to kind of get into the weeds here. So it's like, so you don't have to, it's just going to help us get more roofing done. So the reason being is right now you're paying JCP&L 12 cents a kilowatt hour. Your existing solar has a different rate, a little bit higher than that. If our thing would be to rebid the power purchase agreement, get you a lower rate. So like, for example, it has that we rebid 2 phases, they got 3.5 cent power kilowatt hour rates. So that means instead of paying JCP&L 14 cents, they're going to pay them 3.5 cents for an X amount of kilowatt hours. Those savings are put into a cash flow, and then that helps fund the roofing upgrades over there.
But then what happens because you're talking about a restoration.
Correct.
So what happens when we want to just fully replace the roof? Because we do want to fully replace the roofs. And then if you put solar up there, then that's an issue. Because now
Yeah, I would say so. And I'll be honest, ESIP wouldn't make sense. Full transparency, then ESIP wouldn't be your best bet because it's never going to fit.
So only if we want it on the roof, on a restored roof, not a new roof. at this
Yeah,
point.
and I know Oglethorpe, certain sections would need to be replaced, but certain could take the restoration.
Olga, microphone.
Sorry. Right now you have the solar on the roof. Once it comes off, we will assess your existing, roofs. As Greg said, there may be certain areas where you absolutely need replacement because it's been leaking, the insulation is probably all wet. We would not recommend putting restoration coating on those areas. It's not something the roofing manufacturer, coating manufacturer would warranty for 15 years for sure. So that is a no-no. But we can also identify the areas where, hey, there is not so much damage in the insulation or any kind of like roof deck and so forth, where restoration coating may be feasible. This is something yet to be determined, but we would be looking at that once the PPA comes off so that we can try and see how much of the roof sections require the replacement versus restoration coating, because replacement could be very expensive, but coating also gives you the same length of warranty. If there are sections, let's say 50% of the roof or even 30% of the roof is good for coating, you want to take advantage of that when you're looking at kind of like cost efficiency on the projects, because those dollars could be applied to more critical items like boilers or HVAC or some other needs. So, and these are the options that we typically evaluate at the end of our initial study. So once we have the plan, we project the, anticipated savings, we would be able to figure out how much of the, bond we're looking at is at 5 million, 10 million, or just 1 million. And based on whatever it comes out to be, we can figure out where it's best spent, whether it's the roof or something else.
And what about, like, one of the things that we discussed was, something like solar fields or solar over the parking lots. So is that ESIP or not ESIP? So we don't have to do the roof
Yeah.
if we wanted to do it under, or the roof, like,
Yeah.
Right, so it's like a lot of those,
Different.
yeah, so with the reason roofs are recommended for solar power purchase agreements are because the solar companies are incentivized by the state of New Jersey through the SREX too. So they get a renewable energy credit for every SREX. They sell it, they get money from the state of New Jersey. And if you put it on the roof on a public entity, they get $120 a megawatt hour. If you do carports, you get $85, or so I think it's like 90 for carports and 85 for ground mounted, something along those numbers. So they're incentivized to put it on the roof. And then the other part is their model, you're going to get a better rate on the roof because they're going to have lower construction costs. It's easier to mobilize, easier to build, less equipment. There's no geotechnical study. If you do carports, you can put it into, you're going to have to pay for the steel, the tariffs. So it's just way more expensive. You're going to get a higher cost per kilowatt hour rate. So the recommendation of our companies after evaluating, running the numbers, is typically to do a power purchase agreement on the roof because you'll get the best rate and savings, maximize the roof space. Then for the carport standpoint, we would look to do community solar. So we're getting anywhere from like 40 to 60K a megawatt, like it has it. They're getting like $180,000 a year of revenue doing carport structures.
And when you're talking about that, so obviously, like Kim's saying, like Hazlitt was one of the first districts in Monmouth County years ago. They were ahead of it. They got ahead of it. They got the SREX. They got a really good rate for the SREX. They did it on their roofs, I believe. I haven't looked at a Google map. Like if you look at a Google map of our schools, especially the high school complex, it is riddled with solar. There's solar all over it. But they put in all sorts of carports and everything else if you ever go into Raritan High School,
Yeah.
which is great. My only further question, what Kim would have is, we do have a lot of ground. So say in the back of Indian Hill, I don't know if it's a possibility. I know 15 years ago, they didn't look at it. And for the board that doesn't know, solar got into this district because someone knocked on the township door. I don't know if you guys know this story. And there wasn't enough solar array potential for the township because they have the township municipal building. They have the community center. There's just not enough buildings. So they came quarter mile over to the high school or down the road to Holmdel Road and said, hey, look at the high school. And the high school 15 years ago, we did it, and here we are today.
it was
And
the same building. Remember the
that's
admin
right, the high school.
admin was in town hall.
Yeah, Michael's office is right next to the
Back in
mayor's
the
office.
day. So they just knocked out.
Yeah, they didn't have to go down the door. Exactly. Yeah, then we finally moved.
But
But-
we would, it's so bidding a solar power purchase agreement is in black and white. It's like normally like an HVAC bid. So we could do a base bid, level the playing field. All right, if we do roof mounted for a 2 megawatt system, what's the rate? Your alternate bid number one could be the ground mounted. What would you get there? So we're redoing the ground mounted system with Central Regional School District right now. They like 3.5 megawatts. So we rebid it and we got them like a 3 cent rate, redoing it. The panels are more efficient now. They're a little bigger, but they're more efficient. So it's a bid. We would then evaluate through an RFP phase of the power purchase agreement. We would also have some conversation during our feasibility assessment in this next phase that we would look to enter into. But they're all options I'd say were on the table. The only thing would be is like, is it wetlands or not? I'm not sure what the DEP requirements, that's where that comes into play, next steps.
So a couple things over here.
Yeah.
So if we're talking about just looking at an ideal rate sheet, and of course we want the one that gives us the most benefit out of it. But if we're looking at a couple different components, including the roof, right, we have to think longer term. And it's not just right now, because if we did move forward with the project and all the solar came off, obviously at that moment, we're no longer getting any benefit out of those panels. And so we're already incurring an expense on our usage, whatever that is. And then if we do, and this might be a question for the board, if anyone knows, or maybe it's for Ken, but do we not know the actual state of the roofs outside of whatever solar panels have had to be removed on like an ad hoc basis to repair? Because we also understand that there's a pretty significant cost with whatever panels you take down just to repair on an ad hoc basis, right? So I'm just thinking, in general, is it expensive to do the analysis first, right, before taking any solar off? And I understand our turnaround, we don't have that much runway. So whether it's on the roof, and all of the different parties involved have a different version or agenda of what the ideal project looks like, right? So for the guys who say if it's on the roof, they get a lot more in credits, I get all of that. But if we're going to take a look and objectively compare what makes sense from an expense standpoint and what the cost versus benefit's going to be in the different combinations that we could do, whether it's on the roof, and that would get us that much more. But that also means that in the very short term, we have to come up with an answer on whatever the roof looks like and what portion we need to repair, let's say worst case scenario, or replace all of it. That's a huge dollar amount. So yes, that would give us the higher benefit on, per kilowatt. But if we had the solar in, like, whether it's on a carport or in a field or something, on an ongoing basis, if we have to repair the roof, we don't have to take it off and on. So there's cost and benefit related, whichever way you go, at different points of the usefulness of these panels, right? So does it make sense, if it's not too cumbersome and or expensive, I don't know what that costs, to do the analysis for the base case, scenario 1, scenario 2, and separately for the hold on a second, that thought was like lost for a second. Do you have the answer for that right now, or you don't?
That was kind of our initial, my understanding would be, that was kind of who we were going to go into next, like 2 to 3 week feasibility study. Have us talk to some solar partners, make sure there's no wetland requirements, run the calculations both ways. If we restore the roofs, if we replace them, we would run a bunch of different scenarios and review. But I think you're going right down the right path. The one thing I did want to point out is that the intention of doing the roof warranty as part of the ESIP as a financing would be to have a warranty put down on the roofs to match the lifespan of the solar power purchase agreement contract. So you didn't have the issue of taking them all, putting it back.
Well, that's assuming that any part of the roof is in repair mode and not in replace mode, right? So, and the second part, which came back to me as you were explaining, is for phase 1 of the project, assuming you have all of the data that you need from us to do the analysis on phase 1, all of that happens before we commit to anything to see if we are net positive before we commit to anything, right?
Yeah.
That's why we want to do the feasibility assessment to make sure there's enough juice there.
Thank you.
Can we also talk about
Right.
how does HVAC boilers work into this and direct install?
Sure.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
Right, we're not just talking about roofs and solar, we're also talking about potential of the other part of the project, because that 90 million was roofs and HVAC
HVAC.
units.
Yeah.
So
The part where Easter is also a trade ally partner with JCP&L. So we're working with a few other districts locally on it. So we would, part of our assessment would be to do an audit that would see what equipment, what buildings qualify for direct install. Requirement for direct install is for buildings that use under a 300 kW annual peak demand, which most buildings would probably be right there. So at least 3 of the 4, if I had to guess, is looking at the sheer side.
Yeah, high school and middle school, I doubt. We may be able to get the elementary schools on the direct install program, but there are also other programs that JCP&L has, like energy projects, energy, audit, advanced. Yes, there is for larger buildings. There are different programs. For smaller buildings, it's direct install. They all have incentives and rebates. You could combine all of that in the ESA plan, meaning if the BPU is paying for 70% of the project cost for replacement of UVs or RTUs that you have, the remaining of the 30% could be part of this ESA project under the bond that you could, process through the projected savings. So, yeah.
Alternatively, if we
Mhm.
did a direct install outside of an ESIP, we would have to come up with the
Yes.
money to fund that
Right.
30% or do
Mhm.
referendum and only get 40% or less.
Correct. And also the professional fees and the soft cost associated with any design or engineering or construction oversight is also part of ESIP plan, and that is covered under this ESIP bond. Where you do the direct install outside of the program, those are the additional costs that you have to account for in your annual budget. So there is another piece that you have to calculate on top of the 30% that you're paying from pocket. So that's the advantage here.
Saying all of these fees and costs that would incur if we move forward with ESIP is already embedded in the overall cost, and you would
Mhm.
still have to come out net plus.
Yes, correct.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Cost. There's we do the investment grade audit, then there's an energy savings plan is what you pick that self-funds. That by law has to be funded separately by an independent third-party engineering firm.
Mhm.
So we've done, quite a few of these. I haven't seen many go be over 10 grand.
Yeah.
in the past. So I don't think it's not a max out of pocket, but by law. Out of pocket part.
So I don't see an issue per se with the idea of the ESIP personally, right? I think it's the part of like Spiesel has already decided who we're going to work with, right? In this particular case, DCO Energy. But that is just for the feasibility of it. And then we can where is it that we can decide like for the services or whatever, which plan to go to and have that go out to RFP, or who's going to give it, where along the lines, does somebody know what I'm trying to say?
Right.
I know
If
exactly
you
what
do
you're
the
saying.
feasibility study and for some reason we don't like DCO for whatever reason, is another energy consultant going to abide by this feasibility study and say, no, we have to do ours because, there might be a misrepresentation in there. We don't want to be liable, right? So is that it? Okay.
Right. So
Here's what I sort of know. Let's say it's 90 million, right? Spiesel, and you're their partner, which I have a major problem with from day one. I want him bid out without a doubt. Siemens, Ameresco, Johnson, Honeywell, whoever it is. I'm paying you guys 29, or the board, the district. Let's say it's 90 million. Spiesel's getting 30%. If you do the numbers, read the contract, it's 29.8%. I lied. So that's a huge amount, especially when I'm talking, this isn't 5 years ago when we're doing the referendum, when you did significant design and other things. When there's solar, you're going to talk to the solar guy. When there's lighting, you're going to talk to the lighting guy. When there's controls, you're going to talk to the controls guy. So the amount of work to get for 30%, if you do the math, let's say it's 90 million, God help us. That's $27 million I'm paying to Spiesel, and I'm not bidding out DCO Energy. I absolutely want to see other ESIP companies in here. I want you guys to beat each other up. I want to squeeze as much water out of the rock as I can. This is the biggest decision this district or this board's going to make in the next generation, hands down, without a doubt. Bigger than a referendum we did 7 years ago, whatever, which went great. We need to do it. Not a problem with that. I can tell you of the two proposals, and I'm speaking sort of ahead of myself. There's no way in the world I'm voting for the improvement plan. Not a chance. I couldn't be more of a no if I wanted to be. I'll consider the phase one, which is the energy study.
Right.
And if you guys want to read it, it's basically $26,000 for the audit. That's fine. You got to do the work. There's a lot of engineers going to walk around the 4 schools, work with Ken and his people. If you come back and give the study, the BPU says, yes, this is a legitimate project, and we say we don't want to do it, the board, the investment we'd be making if we take the alternate one is basically $131,000 for what's our budget? 70 million, basically. That's our district budget. It's not a huge, personally, I'm okay with that. But the other one, and not even talking bond council right now. How am I going to figure out a bond council when I have no idea what the project is? I have a blank check. So essentially, I'm going to marry you for the next 15 years. I'm already hiring you and your friend, and I have no idea. I don't mind you guys being our consultant, and what you guys haven't explained in here, I know we're almost on the last page, is with energy projects, normally, if you go through a regular ESCO, you would have a guaranteed savings, which means us 9 individuals that are not in this industry, that don't know ESIF from an ECM to an ESCO, we would be protected if savings go wrong. People make mistakes. People are human. This way we're protected. Obviously, you may not do it for 15 years. You may just do it for 1. And then, but that's my one major concern I have. And the other one is the fee. 30% to me is, I know generally speaking in the industry, 22 to 23% is what normal ESCOs charge. So if I do simple math, let's say it's 90 million. Again, I don't want it to be 90 million. Let's go 20 million. Let's go lower. That's $1.5 million. And I know we just reduced 28 staff members, give or take. That's about 15 staff members that we could have saved if I saved that $1.5 million with some due diligence and for some longer planning. Yeah, I know we're up against it, but I have no problem at all tabling this, or we vote on it, but I'll be a hard no tonight for sure.
So I understand that, and thank you for asking that. So in the proposal somewhere, we have noted that this is just a preliminary without knowing what the project size is going to be. The percentages are based on the industry standard. But we have also noted that when it actually becomes a project, we would come to an agreement with the board with a lump sum fee. So when it's actually a project, the fee would be discussed and agreed upon lump sum would be processed as a separate proposal. So typically for the large projects, you're not going to be paying that much. There's a lump sum. It's similar to referendum. So when we do the pre-referendum services, there is percentage fee projected for phases for construction, administration, and design and bid. But let's say if the referendum is $135 million, we then discuss with the district and come to a lump sum fee. And the amount of percentage that you calculated, typically the ESCOs have very high percentage fee, similar to that in the ESCO approach as well. They range from 20 to 25%. The only thing you're missing on that is you will not have the architect oversight who knows your existing facilities and your equipment condition, which you want to have, because they may be missing something. Having the architect on board could help with some of those misses and mistakes that may be going in for 15 years, and it's hard to undo.
Well, I would think the board and the district and administration would absolutely 100% want you guys involved. Same way you guys were involved in the referendum. Even considering potentially having a construction manager, depending on how size it is. Because I know Mr.
Agreed.
Stromsland, we just lost to the system buildings and grounds project manager. I know if we do a do-it-yourself program, a lot of the onus responsibility is going to fall on him and his people.
Right.
Last time I checked, Spiesel is not a general contractor, and you're not a construction manager.
we are
I know you want to be, but you're not.
We are not
So,
PMC classified.
A lot's going to fall on his shoulders and the people that are on his team. And I don't, that there's a lot of risk there. And for a project this big, it's a amount of risk. If this went sideways, we could be in a lot of trouble, or future boards can be in a lot of hot water. And I don't want to see that. And the only thing, if the board wants to look at it, since we're sort of ahead of it, where I came up with the numbers, if you look at page 3 on the detailed presentation, the fourth paragraph under phase two, you'll see 22.5%. Okay. And then it says, if we don't move forward, the project will be $105,000. Turn to the next page, you'll see top paragraph, second line, 5.9%.
Mhm.
And then you go to the next paragraph under phase four is 1.4%. So I'm not a mathematician. St. John's wasn't really good math majors. That's 29.8%. So
Yeah.
it's quite high in my opinion.
That's just a standard design bid and construction percentage.
And
which we
this is
have
the
in-
contract we'd be signing. So when you're saying, oh, we could change that, if all of a sudden board president, business administrator, superintendent sign it, fat chance you guys are going to go change it and say, yeah, I'll do it for less money. No way.
So as I said, it does allow us to discuss and convert lump
But that
sum
doesn't mean you
into
have to. And then all of a sudden, then where's the next superintendent, next business administrator, or else down the road? Where would they be? I just don't want to put the board in hot water because we want to rush through a decision when this is the first time we're seeing you guys in public. I'd like to see other ESCOs in here and see what they have to say. I'd like to just other points of view. If we're doing a do-it-yourself, I'd like to see Kevin Santabrino. I'd like to see any other architect we can, just so that we get other points of view. This is the biggest decision this district's going to make
Right.
for the next 20 years, bar none. Yeah, please. Thank you.
So I do hear you. Just a couple things on the do-it-yourself model. It is very misleading. So the only difference between the do-it-yourself model and any type of ESCO hybrid model is that the subcontractors are board approved for full transparency. We still have on-site supervision. We still act as a general contractor, construction manager, oversight. We handle the day-to-day. It's not a big burden on Ken or the district. So we do handle all site supervision, review AIA payments of subcontractors. We would coordinate that with Spiesel. We still handle everything turnkey. The other part of this, just to address the main reason I believe this was brought forward, is that the solar power purchase agreement rates are only going to be low. And I think, Scott, you had mentioned it, is the investment tax credit expires December 31st of 2027 if the new system's not turned on. Your current PPA expires February of 2027. There's a 90-day clause that puts us into May. So then we'd have to have somebody, if you don't coordinate ahead of time enough, the issue is you're never going to get a new power purchase agreement to take advantage of those investment tax credit. So I believe in talking with Olka and Deb and the district, the reason we evaluated this method, and I believe it was brought forward, correct me if I'm wrong, was because of the district would still have complete control. I do not believe it would be the $90 million value or close to that, just based on your utility spend alone. And the other part, the main pressing reason is just time. The investment tax credit is expiring if you don't get the new solar system. So rates are going to go up. I talked to a few solar companies, like 30 to 40%. If you miss out on it, maybe higher, which puts you maybe like an 8 to 12 cent range instead of a 3.5 cent range. So just to give you an idea that was the main reason push for the DIY.
Understood with the timeline that we're facing, but so if this is the first official meeting with the whole board, and it's basically an intro with the fees that are outlined in all of the different bullet points that Mr. Reddy went through. Is that just like the canned, like you walk into a dealership and that's the MSRP, and then this is not the negotiation session, but is there room for that fee to move in any type of significant way? That's just a general question. You don't have to commit to anything. Is there any room, or those are the hard numbers?
For sure. So I would just add that typically, so what we've done in the past in the do-it-yourself method is we've reduced our fee and turned it into a lump sum, I believe is the proposal outlines. So it gets turned into a lump sum and reduced when we go into implementation.
Hey, Kyle, these types of contracts, termination for convenience, not typical. Because we would just pay what the work they did. If you're lump summing it, then we're paying for it all. If it's hourly, then we would pay what the work was done, right? But
Correct.
In that case, we would need it, but not typical.
You're talking the phase one only or the phase 1 to 4? Because I don't know that I'm in a position to answer that. Yeah.
Quick question. Is there a scenario where the initial work that you guys put in, that there's a fee associated, and of course we pay it because, compensation for services rendered, but is there a scenario where there's not any contingency fees if we don't move forward, because you were technically paid for the work, just because we're not committing to future phases? If it's not a good fit for us, is there a way that the contingency can, because I think that's really like the main hindrance on even taking step one, knowing that we have a time crunch here. So knowing that our back's a little up against the wall with what we need to do, still can't rush into anything. But I think a lot of those contingency, if you don't move forward after the initial, then phase 2, phase 3, all of these fees stack up. That's a very unattractive way to look at something on like a first go around. So is there a way that we just pay you for the work the first round and then see if it's a good fit, or that's not?
I think Joanne, I think what Deb had provided us, she had 2 documents.
Mhm.
This one, the ESIP program, which is steps phase 1 through 4 as it was being described. Then the second one, which is basically the energy assessment. That's almost like that gets the cart moving a little bit. And if you look, there's 9 months between June and February. Is it a lot of time? No, it's not, because a lot of times it takes about a year, if not longer, to go through these programs. They're definitely not overnight things, but we still have time. And I can tell you this, many current companies in this environment would be more than happy to go chase after a decent sized project that has, 5 figures attached to it in this day and age, with minimal risk. I mean, my still problem though is I still have also the guarantee problem. I have a really big problem that if we're going to invest as a district that much money, it's a heck of a lot of risk that I hope it goes well. And when it doesn't, know who holds the bill? We do. The district does. You have to, the contractor is going to still want to get paid. So if the people that did the energy calculations and things, probably going to get it right because the BPU goes through, but the BPU isn't perfect. I'm just saying it's a big risk to go that route. When we did the energy project a couple of years ago, when we did the lighting and boilers, the complexity was a lot less. Lighting is pretty basic, pre-lighting, post-lighting. Boilers pretty general and went fine, but it was way not the size of this one.
Right, but part of the process, if I could, Greg, it also involves, as Greg mentioned, you have to, once the ESP is put together, before it's submitted to BPU, you're going to have third-party engineering firm, which is not Spiesel, it's not hired by us, or any of our consultant, third party purely has to review and approve and agree with whatever is projected. So you have oversight. If you have a preferred consultant who you trust, maybe that's the third party consultant we hire as we move along, and they can provide their comments and we can adjust if needed. This way you're not locked into just our proposal, but there is double check
Right.
that's done before.
No, you're right. There are 5 certified
Yeah.
companies that are third party, unrelated, that do
Yeah.
the study. But again, I'm not the smartest guy. The guy had a bad day, whatever, misses something. All of a sudden he misses on, yes, that layer and that layer. They miss it. You're on the hook. That's all I'm saying.
Right.
We would, DCO would offer an energy savings guarantee. We would offer an energy savings guarantee,
Yeah.
100%. That's standard in the industry. We would be more than happy to.
Right.
So I think it's to try and think about next steps, right? And not necessarily with an outright approval, but I think to sort of contextualize, and Debbie, I think maybe this would be where you would come in, you would come in handy here. Would be to say, okay, let's say we go with the assessment, and obviously not steps through phases 2 through 4. What does that look like from an RFP standpoint? What does that realistically look like for a timeline standpoint? What would be the most expeditious path? Like, again, let's say we go with the assessment and then the board decides that they want RFP out, which just to clarify, they could do that, correct? Like, in other words, we could work with you, with both of you, with DCO and Spiesel on the assessment piece, and then not contract beyond that, and at that juncture decide like we want to move in another direction with the energy consultant. Theoretically, they could do that.
Yes.
Can you explain that?
The Board of Public Utilities has a standard RFP template on the NewJerseyCleanEnergy.com website, but to release it or get it approved by the BPU before you got the RFP, which is required by law, you would have to get your local government energy audits done. So that takes, we help folks get in the queue all the time. It could take upwards of 10 months, if not longer.
To get in the queue to
get those free assessments done by the state.
So what are you saying, Greg? The government doesn't move quickly? Okay.
This is about right.
So at this juncture, it makes sense, right? I mean, given their presentation, obviously we're going to come back and have more questions. At this juncture, during this meeting, does it make sense for us to put a pin in it, digest what was proposed here and presented, and then us have more in-depth questions amongst ourselves and then circle back?
We need to discuss not only this, the referendum,
Of course.
like the whole thing
No,
to see how this all
thing.
fits.
I'm
So
not
I think
saying-
we have a lot of homework to do this month.
Agreed,
Yeah.
but I'm saying we're not going to make any decisions here right now. So to the extent that, their presentation is finished, we could table this piece because there's a lot more to discuss, right? And I don't, given whatever else is on the agenda, we're not going to come to an answer on this tonight.
Joanne, I think if you looked, items number 39 and 40 are the two items that relate to this, 40 being the bond counsel, and by the way, the bond counsel, he's the guy, Tony Salamini, he's the one that did our bond counsel a couple of years ago. So, he knows our district. It's a good
Yes.
thing.
Yeah.
Good people.
Yeah, he's very.
He goes hunt the money for us, basically. But again, like I said earlier, approving the bond counsel when I don't even know how much it's going to be for that, just my simple brain doesn't.
Right.
I can't get that. I understand time.
Yes. Yeah, we
Debbie.
totally understand your position. And to answer Scott's question, there is always, possibility of switching over. It's board's decision. You're not bound to one particular company. That's an option. It's just there is pros and cons with it, which is what we explained.
There's,
Oh, yeah.
there's additional bureaucratic steps that need to be taken, which take time.
Yeah.
Debbie,
Can I ask a basic question? May I?
Yes, Rika.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it just is not clear to me if there's a time crunch now, why we are doing this so late and why not, starting from January. And secondly, because there's a time crunch and we've talked about carports for a while last year, and even there was a presentation by Ms. Donnelly as well. So if we did carports, even though it may not give us 100% whatever, recs, and gives us a large percent, then we don't have to make a decision now until the roof needs to be addressed.
Right.
And mostly, I'm not sure why we're doing this so late with that time crunch. Why not at leisure, even last year for that matter?
well, I mean, I can address that. And I did really speak to it in my introduction, which is that we did talk about it. In the beginning of this school year, we started talking about it in the fall.
I mean, have this presentation from them.
Well, what was amidst what we all know is a very, I can assure you that Mrs. Donnelly's been quite busy for the last several months. I can personally attest to that. And not the least of which a difficult contract negotiations, an extremely difficult budget, preparing a custodial outsourcing RFP, and ultimately bringing that to fruition, though we didn't ultimately do it, on top of all the, your garden variety business administrative responsibilities. But over the course of these last several months, and I cannot do justice to all of the background legwork and homework that was going on to get to this point, but suffice to say it was significant. And I do want to thank Spiesel because I also understand that over this process, you've been doing a good amount of this work gratis, my understanding. So thank you for that. So that was really the nature of it. And while, again, as I said in my introduction, while it seemed like this was like behind the curtain and all of a sudden we're rushing through this, we have not been rushing through it. We've been getting deliberately to this point and understanding and acknowledging that the board has some reservations and questions.
Right. And I also wanted to add that you currently have the power purchase agreement in place, and we've been evaluating possibilities to continue with that or modify that. There has been a lot of, discussion behind the scenes to try and, make it more cost efficient. Unfortunately, New Jersey laws do not allow us to keep the existing solar that you have on the
Can't
roof
even-
under power purchase agreement.
Ken even tried to
Yeah.
reach out to the
Right.
current leasing company to see if they would lease our roofs for 5 years
Right.
until we were able to do a referendum, whether it was 3 years, 4 years, 5 years.
Yeah.
And they appealed to the state and the state said no. So,
Yes.
we've been trying
Yes.
different avenues to
Yeah.
rectify the situation as best we can. The least impact to the taxpayer is really,
Yeah.
the biggest hurdle.
Yeah.
Deb,
there's-
can I ask you a stupid question? So we have a PPA for the solar, ends February, whatever, 2027, which is here as quick as than you think. Right now, I guess two questions. One, what revenue do we realize from that per year? Do you know? And then two, we do nothing. What happens? We take no action at all. We go play basketball. We go do whatever. What happens?
They remove the solar panels.
They take their toy home. So they
Yes.
come with their little trucks, put them on the back. Then what?
We pay the going rate.
Right. So again, okay. So that's my first question. What is that number
Mhm.
that because of the solar array we have on the 4 schools and specifically the high school complex, like
Yeah.
what number, what is that cost of, like,
That's-
how many teachers is it?
Right.
600,000 a year? Is it 100? I know we've always had a good program about it, but I've never heard that number or remember the number, what that is.
So that's
Like, what's it worth?
very interesting. So when you did the solar, you're one of those districts who installed solar at the time where the utility cost was, it was probably not the right time and nobody knew about it because it was 15 years ago. But now, if you compare your utility rates versus what you're paying to your existing PPA, I think next year, because every year the PPA rate goes up. So next year, in your last year, you are going to be paying more for your PPA than compared to your existing utility rates. We have done that analysis, and that was part of the study that, the lady who asked the question, why it's taking so long. We were in the process of evaluating. The person who has installed kept claiming it's producing so much, you are benefiting, but it's really them who are benefiting. Like in this case, next year, once it comes off, you will hardly see any difference in your payment.
Well, there's my ask, at least on behalf of the board, is, okay, I do nothing at all. What am I going to be paying next year? Because I know this board, as it constitutes next year, might be going out for public question to the township. All of a sudden, if this is too fast, we feel too rushed, we don't want to make such a big investment for the next 15 years, do nothing. And then go, okay, hey, it's going to be an extra $300,000 on the utilities. Or I don't even know, Ken, I don't know if you know this number. What is our current utility spend for the year? Do we know that number offhand? Like, I would think that's almost blocking and tackling.
If you notice, one of the resolutions is to add money to our electric and gas because we're out of money from what we
Is
budgeted.
that the reverse auction one?
Huh?
The one
No,
that's,
no. There's a resolution on here.
Was it number
It's
36?
It's a revision, the first revision to appropriate money. And 2 of those lines are natural gas and electricity because we have already spent our budget on
Right.
both lines for the year. This is $185,000 that I've estimated we need to finish the year utility costs because they're through the roof.
So
That's
what if,
135, item 35. That's the one.
It's the first revision. I don't know what the.
Oh, yeah. Okay, got it.
what if it's not all or nothing, not full commit, not do nothing? Is it a prudent next step that's realistic from a time standpoint, to have the analyses done on base case now, if we had it on a carport, if we had it on a solar field, and that's just in and of itself the fee, because that analysis has to be done anyway, right? If to know what our options are.
Right.
And if that cost is not astronomical, and there's also not some other contingent obligation if that analysis is done, does that make sense to give us a clearer picture of what our options are?
You mentioned that that reverse auction is on here.
Yeah.
I have been warned to brace myself for the costs. And I guarantee you that we did not budget enough for 26, 27 unless we have a really positive outcome. The auction is scheduled for tomorrow, if approved tonight. If not, it'll be postponed. But I've been warned, brace yourself.
Yeah, I just look at it for making such a large decision that if I have to be rushed, I think that's just a poor decision. And I think it's okay if I have to take a punch to the face next year or put it on the taxpayers for a year and add that to the public question that we're going to do to raise the taxes, so be it for a year. If it's for the better of the good for the long term for this district, which it can be, so I don't feel like, oh, I have to rush with these guys or those guys just because I'm out of time.
But let's put the solar.
That's what I'm thinking,
But let's
yeah.
put the solar piece aside and look at your community solar, HVAC, and boilers that also need to be
They're definitely bad
replaced,
too. Mhm.
right? So this is a financing mechanism along with the direct install to hopefully get some of that done.
Oh, absolutely.
It doesn't have to be everything, right? It could be pieces based on the feasibility study.
This is
I don't know,
absolutely-
Ken, if you
Do we
wanna-
not have 4 weeks to discuss this? Like have these conversations amongst the board and just for the June meeting and
This-
make a decision then?
This is by far the best way to get stuff done in schools, hands down, bar none. Put a referendum. Yeah, good luck. Like I fear for, a public question in this town, but if we're going to go for it, go for it. But I totally hear you, Deb. Like I know Ken, I'm sure okay, how are all our boilers in this school and the chillers, and they're quite old and they're past the useful life expectancy. I mean, a couple of years ago here, I think it was Indian Hill or Village, we had to rent the chiller, right? And we had to put it outside. I mean, those are bad days when you get the bad hot days in September or May. I'm just saying, I don't mind. I don't want to say putting a pause button. Keep doing this. I'd be fine doing a survey or a study. I think that's helpful to see where we are now, where we're going to be. But I don't mind putting it off for a while till we get, and like you said, it's going to be a heck of a lot of money for all this stuff. If I could have a lower fee and only pay 22%, that 8%, I could put towards something else. If I have $30 million, 10 million is going to go to them. I got 20 million to buy stuff with. I want to buy stuff with more money.
So to Ray's point, we clearly have a lot more discussing to do, but the question I threw out there kind of wasn't rhetorical. Do you have an answer to what I asked? So it's not do nothing, full commit, or get the study to see and study of the analyses to see what options 1, 2, and 3 are. Is that an option, or does that come with a contingent obligation if you guys did that outside of whatever fee it costs to get that done?
That is an option because this is just a study and as Peter already mentioned, we do have that another option submitted to them. If you're only, evaluating just first phase for now, it's fine. We can do that because that allows us to evaluate more in detail and come up with like more specifics to the questions that you're asking, meaning, can I replace the roof or only restoration? Can I do the boilers versus carport, where on the ground we can put more solar and gain more kind of like incentives and savings. So I think there is a value to that. That's definitely something we can proceed with. That's not a problem to us. And it doesn't, bind anybody for the next steps until you approve the ESP or the next steps, because it's required. We have to have the board resolution to go forward with the ESP submission to NJBPU. Nothing gets done without the board approval. So there is certainly an option.
Thank you. So should we regroup on this piece after tonight to see what a prudent next step is, or do we have to make some sort of decision on
No.
anything tonight? I don't think we do.
No,
right?
that is not necessary. The motion can be tabled. I need to think through what sort of the format and the cadence of these meetings looks like over the course of the next month. We've had difficulty finding days and times of mutual convenience of board members. We've had pre-scheduled meetings that have not been completely attended. So we're going to have to think through the best way to do that. But I think, non-quorum meetings, Ken, Debbie, Kyle, dare I say Olka? I'm kidding. Maybe Olka, maybe Greg. We'll have to figure it out. But right. So, so we'll have to think through what that format looks like because it's going to be a busy month.
Deb, can you explain the one that says phase 1? Like if we,
So the original resolution, the original motion was
Right.
the full.
the
phase
full
one
vote,
for the full
right?
proposal
So phase 1 is what?
is just the feasibility study.
Which is the energy assessment, which is $26,000, that doesn't have a carrot on it. Meaning, if the other way, if we did the 26,000, did the survey, they do the work, they're not in the business to do surveys. They're not. So they basically, I don't want to say you get penalized, but you're going to pay $100,000. What was it? $106,000 break fee, whatever. Basically I don't want to say dissuade you from doing a.
If we don't go through with it.
If the BPU comes back and says this is a viable energy savings improvement plan, then because like I said, they're not in business to do surveys, because then you could go take said survey and go shop it down the block to everyone, which I don't think is a bad idea, but that's one of the ways to prohibit that. And I get it, because this is your hard-earned work. And like Scott said, I don't want you to work for free. I get it. You guys have been a good partner of ours for the past bunch of years, and we appreciate it. I mean, that's why I was like, I'm more of a, hey, if we can move ahead with phase 1 or the study, I'm okay with that. But I'm also like, I do have that question. And the question is going to still be out there is, what is that number that if we do nothing, what are we paying? And if we don't know, what is our best guesstimate? Because then if we need to put it into a public question or something like that, it could give us time going, okay, hey, look, yeah, we're going to miss the date of February, whatever it is. But at least we know what pain point that's going to be. It's going to be
pay the rates from the reverse auction tomorrow.
okay. So it might be, you know,
Right?
I-
I
you know,
mean, that's basically what it
Which is
is.
a
I mean,
bad thing.
again, especially
But
because
doesn't
it's not, you know, you're not gonna.
didn't it sound like we don't have that, like, when we locked it in, we didn't get that much better of a rate anyways, right? Isn't that kind of what you were saying? Like when we did this whole initial thing, right?
Mhm.
So we're going to go back to those rates, but it sounds like we're not that far off from them anyways. Unless I misunderstood you.
So
You
you
were
were
saying-
talking about the percentage fees for the
Yeah.
phase 2, 3, like Greg and I both
no,
mentioned.
she's talking
that-
about the
The SREC
current
rates.
That's right. Okay, gotcha.
solar rate.
So we do not have any information on what it's going to be after December 31st, 2027. So because federal incentives are going away, that's all we know. And that's why the districts are trying to capture that as soon as they could, because the system has to be energized by then to be able to lock that in.
No,
If you
agreed.
miss
I'm
that-
just saying you said take the solar panels off, right? So we're clearly going to lose energy savings, right? Because we have
Right,
a locked
lose that
in rate.
revenue
We have
line.
that locked in rate, but it sounds like that rate was not very
It's not
attractive,
favorable right now.
right? It's not favorable. So it
So
doesn't sound like you're
Existing,
losing.
correct,
Okay.
yes.
So that's what
my
I'm saying.
point.
You're going to be paying the rates from the reverse auction that will happen tomorrow. And that'll be for, a couple of years. And the money that we are potentially losing because of the cost of the solar PPA would be a savings against what we're
Right.
currently paying.
Right.
But that's the exact figure I'd love to get. Just, is it
Yeah.
50? Is it 100? Is 500? And it's good because all of a sudden, Mr. Solar Guy comes, takes his stuff back, takes
But
back his
that
football.
would be part of
Yeah.
the feasibility
Yeah.
study to calculate those.
I just feel like I'm okay personally with at least starting the feasibility study. Maybe I'm all by myself on that. I think it has to get done no matter what. And so, like, to me, the alternate of phase 1 makes sense to at least start to give us a ground point. And then that way, over the next month, we can discuss phases 2, 3, and 4, and possibly even have some, like, some sort of answer, not even a full answer, but like maybe a piece of that. Maybe one school has had infrared, whatever done, and like just
Right.
to give us an idea of, what, so. I mean, that's just my opinion. I don't know what anyone else thinks of that, but
I have a thought on that. So if I heard, Craig, if I heard you correctly, that once these federal incentives go away, I think you used the figure of 40% increase, some estimates of 40%. So how does that, how would an increase like that impact the value comparatively to the value of doing it prior to those incentives, insofar as the generated revenue, the ability to funnel that into capital improvement projects, even things that have absolutely nothing to do with capital improvement? I use the examples of football helmets, et cetera. How does that compare?
So 3.5 cents by, million kilowatt hours. That's our most recent RP solar rate we received. So you're 1.35 million, just the value there. Double it, you're just losing, you're cutting that. So you're talking 7-8 cents as the starting point instead of lower sub 5. Then it escalates at 2% a year. So I think the investment tax credit and the time crunch is really, you just lose out on a much better rate. You could wait, you could absolutely do nothing, but then you're going to lose out on those additional solar savings. You'd have to get interconnection applications regardless of where you put solar. If you put on the roof, you have to get a structural analysis done. You have to do the roofing upgrades. You have to get the system then built and then turned on, submit the PTO to JCP&L. There's a lot that goes on. It's not, I understand there's a month is probably more than reasonable. It's just, you would get a higher rate or potentially not even have solar at all because it just wouldn't be economical.
Yeah.
If you miss the ITC, potentially. Again, the market's going to adjust with the loss of this investment tax credit, which is to be seen. Just some estimates we've received is their starting rate point's going to go up 40% or so.
So based upon that, and considering we're talking about the prospective investment of $26,000, which isn't a huge amount of money, but it's still real money. I tend to agree with Ray in that we have to really examine, like, all right, like let's ponder the prospect of this project going beyond the tax incentives. What does that really mean? Is there still value to doing that? where we remove the constricted timeline and there's still value to it? How does that interplay with the conversation on a referendum? I think there's a lot of moving parts here. And when thinking about investing $26,000, we don't want to invest $26,000 and then decide like we're not even going in that direction, or we're going in that direction later than we thought, or we're taking a different approach to it. So,
what's our plan to evaluate the roofs, or have you guys already on previous board, right? Evaluate,
that's what-
because I believe
That's what
right,
phase one is. They evaluate the roof.
so we haven't evaluated them before. We don't know if they can be repaired or replaced. But
And-
like we have to, because my thought is if we have to do that anyways to see, right, what our options are, then it probably makes sense to do that. But I don't know if prior boards or anything has already assessed that, because I do think there seems to be a much more of a benefit, right, if you guys can
correct me if
repair roofs.
Ken's going to
versus
speak to
replace
it.
them,
Yeah,
right?
No, it's a good question, Brittany. Yeah.
I don't think that we've professionally done any
Assessed
evaluation,
anything,
but
okay.
I won't say that Ken is not a professional, but we haven't had an outside third-party professional evaluate, right?
So you're not going to get a thorough evaluation of the roof with the current condition because most of your roofs have solar panels. So there's no way to determine what's going on underneath. At the last referendum, what Spiesel added to the project was to look at, evaluate, and repair all the perimeter areas on all the schools' roofs, because those were the areas where you have most of your leaks. The solar panels do offer a certain amount of protection covering those areas. So with the panels still there, we really couldn't, I can't imagine how you could make a thorough evaluation. We know that we have leaks in areas where you have panels. Now in February, when these panels are removed, we're going to actually be able to make cheaper repairs, because right now you're paying
To take it
for the
off.
solar panel
Mhm.
company to remove and
Mhm.
replace every one of those panels. And that
800?
cost generally exceeds the cost of the repair to the roof
Mhm.
itself. So
So does this feasibility study include taking off the solar and actually checking the state of the, okay, so then, but to your point, you can't check this,
$26,000.
but you can't check the state of the roof without taking off the solar. So how are
You're
you
saying
do-
infrared to see where there's
you
wetness.
can't do infrared where you have solar panels in
Right.
place.
We should assume worst case scenario, we have to repair, not restore the roofs. I think that we should start and work backwards.
Right.
Don't you mean replace? You said repair.
Replace.
Repair is not.
Yes, repair,
replace.
not restore. Yes.
Like my biggest thing is understanding what the savings we have now, what they could be later. Because I know there's certain districts that are in this state that said, you know what? I got solar on the roof, take them off. I'm done. Obviously, there's a risk you lose that revenue stream. And we like revenue streams because we don't have many and we need them. But I understand from Ken's right. Every time, oh, you got a roof repair? All right, I got to call the guy. He got to come. And then he's got to put it back on after the other guy's done. So that process never ends. And I don't know if we have the budget numbers of how much roof repairs we've had for last 5 years, things like that. That's
The last year is probably closing in on $90,000.
right. Which on a $70 million spend doesn't knock me over, but it's still, obviously it's only going to go that way, but
And on that same note, as Pete said, by next month, if we also think about if we did give us the numbers about if we put carports to get some sort of Rex, and how much, what is that effect compared to if we just did carports and not even touched the roof or assessed the roof, what would the difference be? What are the numbers?
Yeah, that can be evaluated as part of this study, although carports are not, very financially kind of like, inviting when it comes to solar, but there is some benefit. But compared to the roof, like roof is the best option when it comes to solar. I understand our roofs are not ready for that. That's why we're looking at ESIP and bond and getting some of the roofs done.
I was gonna say, and the board and administration will want to look into if you would do carports, because the town may not want that aesthetic
Yeah.
feel, and there's a lot of other variables that go into just the carports. Besides it's a heck of a lot more uber expensive. Obviously, it gives you more solar array, but You
Yeah.
know, does the town want that?
I mean, over
Right.
15 years, does it preserve the asphalt? Does it save enough money on the snow? It probably doesn't.
Makes the
but-
car, make the
Yeah, I
cars
don't,
cooler.
but I think it's just something that we have to take a look at, right? Just,
Do we have enough
Right.
space where we could even do a solar field, if not carport, because we don't like the aesthetics? And
There is space, and that would be part of this study to
enough
analyze
space for
whether.
all the usage?
Right in the back of the high school, back at Indian Hill, like,
Indian
yeah, there's a
Hill,
lot of.
this property has some, I think I've seen that.
And the only thing I was
Mention
gonna,
that.
the only thing I was gonna ask you, maybe, if you could maybe process it through Deb or Dr. Cascone, is be helpful for the board. Like, hey, here's a sample fees energy study. You could block out the names of the whatever school district you did, just so the board can understand, okay, for $26,000, I'm gonna basically get this. And it's talks to me, it shows, you know, it's a real live school. You could block
Yeah.
out all the schools. I think that'd be helpful for the board just to
Right.
understand what they're looking at and what do you get for that? So.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. We actually did ESIP project DIY 2016 for Middletown Township School District. They had, at the time, they had 17 schools. I think they have less number of schools now. But it involved PPA at all 17 roofs, HVAC upgrades. It took care of actually all of their RTUs at 2 high schools and 3 middle schools, very large buildings. It was altogether about $13 million ESIP project. They still have it, you know, it's, I think, approaching 10 years this year. So that's like the biggest one that I was personally involved in that, and it was DIY. We did it like with lots of different professionals. But it was a successful project. Amy Doherty is your contact, Deb, if you want to discuss that. Yeah.
Well,
And Hazlitt was also something that we were involved in the first with Chris Mullins when he was the BA over there. So, yeah.
well, I want to say thank you. I know this was in a very passionate conversation, I guess, but it's important. I truly believe, you know, for the boards to come, this is the biggest financial decision they're going to make, bar none. I don't see anything even remotely close to this number. So my one personal opinion is I would want to make sure that the board gets it right, the district gets it right, because we're living with it for 15 years at a minimum.
Right.
And you don't want it to go wrong, especially in our town. You know, things go the wrong way, you know, it could be pretty ugly, but it's not even that. It's more about being a steward of the money in this district and knowing how, like Scott said, and I know Sarika brought up, you know, the whole budget, you know, like first we were quite busy with the budget, hardest budget we've had in years, and quite busy with a teacher contract. So here we are now. Obviously, it wasn't because people weren't looking at it. It's because, you know,
Right.
BA had a lot of other things going on, you know, right?
Yeah, there's a lot to
Kinda-
digest.
Nothing. So
But-
thank you. And I don't know, if board
Thank
members,
you.
any more questions? I think you guys probably are here way longer than you thought you would be. But thank you, and I'm sure we'll be in touch within the month, if not even sooner. And you know, this is excellent information. You know, so thank you.
Thank you. And if any more questions,
Thank you.
I'm happy to get on the call whenever you need. It's fine. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Rick.
Yeah, I think a sample would be helpful just to see what. Okay, here's what
Know the
end product
deliverable.
is. You know, you know, people in insurance, they don't know this stuff. All right, so we got through the student reports for the superintendent. He might be quick.
Thank you, President Reddy.
Thank you, Dr. Cascone.
I do, real quick. I do want to second though what Scott was saying though. If we are going to table this, like I want to come up with an actionable plan of like how we're going to meet though, because we lose steam and we lose momentum and we lose, right? And so if it is really a month turnaround, like we should be a little bit more just thoughtful of like what we
no, we
want
have to be
do.
available. I
We've
know
got
this
to be
is
able to
tough
do
time
that.
because of graduation
Yeah.
and things like that, but we have to be available to get it done because I think all of us, every single member needs to be able to explain this to the public in a way that they'll understand, because this is the first time they're hearing it. And we know that we have to find creative ways to connect with the community sometimes so that they know what's going on.
It's very statesmanlike of you, Ray. So, yeah, you know, next week strikes me as a good week, right? It's, you know, it's sort of a fallow week in between the committee, the whole. I think, I know that, you know, for my availability is pretty good. We don't have a ton of night events next week. So Debbie and I will regroup tomorrow.
I'm at conference Wednesday and Thursday,
Okay.
so.
Well, we'll regroup tomorrow. Debbie and I will put our heads together and, you know, we'll kind of come up with a plan, not only in terms of when the meetings might happen and possible dates, but also what are we trying to accomplish in this meeting? And as far as that goes, while I'm just soliciting some feedback, do we want to have more opportunities, just board members and administration to beat this up? Do we want to invite, these folks back? What do you feel we're going to try and accomplish through these meetings? And what do you feel is the best format and the best, the people to attend these meetings?
I think we come up with a committee that's devoted to looking into this as best as possible to help make the decision. Obviously, having them there would have insights into things that we don't understand. And rather than, all right, let's ask them this question, then it take a week to get back, and then communicate it back to the board. So having them real time is going to be important to make sure that we can get this wrapped up. The quorum situation is, a hindrance, I think, in terms of time, because now you have 4 people that are going to go and then another 5 people that have to be educated on it thereafter, which kind of stinks, but it's part of the process and how we have to do it. But,
Or if we did a committee of the whole, we can talk about this in public. Yes,
Yes.
there's really no private
Yes.
conversations.
yeah,
in
we
it.
don't
Yeah.
necessarily need to make it where it's,
You know what I mean? I mean,
Because if
there are times where a committee of the whole works.
and we could do it virtually as well and just invite people virtually
So-
if they did want to attend, right? And
So if I'm understanding you correctly, we're talking about a special public meeting?
Well, I know if there's more than 5 of us, we would need that, right?
Because we do have the committee hall
just for the
17.
purposes of making it where everybody isn't getting all the information real time, rather
At the
than
same time.
here's a second meeting for the people that weren't in it, and then they're
Right.
missing certain information that was covered. So it just
So with
creates a
something with this magnitude, I think even though what you're saying is right, as far as being more efficient with time, but I think with all of the details that come out, if we do bring the specialists back, it's hard to relay back all of the details to the other people who are not part of the committee. That's the only thing I'm worried
I
about.
agree with that.
So, I mean, for something like this, I think everybody should have all of the necessary information. If we are going to vote inaction, something in between, I think we need to know what it is we're looking at.
And the public can show up too and ask their own
Okay.
questions, right? That's another
yeah.
opportunity.
Sometimes a lot of times the public's input, they're asking different questions than we ever thought of sometimes. So it's very helpful.
And I
And
can
I'm
say
sure there's
this.
people in town who might be experts at
Right.
this and they can chime in. So.
I mean, I can say this, if we have that, I wouldn't even be averse. I mean, to say more work for Deb, but Spiesel's great. There's a lot of other architects, another lens, another eye, and DCO Energy. I know who they are. I was like, I'm in that industry. Get Siemens, get Amoresco, get Schneider, get Honeywell, have them come in. Because just like you said, there's other people that have other ideas. And, why would I not want to, for something this large? I want more ideas. I want more creativity. This is a ton of money. If I'm going to do a do-it-yourself program for 30 million, I'm giving 10 million to the architect. That's a heck of a lot of money. I don't,
Well, I think then if that's, to continue the conversation here, so the administration understands how the board wants us to move forward. If it's the board, if there's a majority opinion of the board that agrees with Pete, then I think we can pretty much take off the table the fact that this is going to happen prior to the tax incentives sunsetting. It's just not. I mean, they're just, we're just not going to have the runway. We're talking about potentially bringing in a different architectural firm. I don't even know what that looks like.
I do agree with Pete, but as you're stating, right, we might not have that runway. And that's, I think, what happens in a lot of different circumstances within any school district is that there's so many different things happening at different times that it's like, all right, well, now we have to go through this formal process of finding another, 20 different vendors that want to submit an RFP, go through the RFP process, and now we're stuck making a bad decision or can't make a decision because it's like analysis paralysis, right? So yeah, I think we kind of are somewhat, I don't want to say burdened with the people that we have, but I think we can trust them enough that we've used them as long as we have as well, and we can renegotiate contract terms and things of that nature that make us feel more comfortable as well.
Right.
yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say, like, we
It's
don't
not
even,
Spiesel. I don't think
Yeah.
we don't know if we want to do it. We don't know what's best for us. We really don't as a board. Like, is it do-it-yourself program or is it a regular energy savings company coming in? So what I'm saying is, in the meeting that we would have, as committee of the whole, invite a couple in. They say yes, that's great. If they say no, that's great. Guarantee you they're going to say yes. Their butts will be in these seats when they want to be, because this is a big carrot that they could come get.
So I
And
agree.
the faster to close.
I
oh my
agree,
goodness,
and
you'll
we
be
should
here.
definitely do that. But correct me if I'm wrong here. If, let's say, another company comes in and they say something that we're fond of, and we're like, yeah, that I resonate with that. I think I'd want to use them. It's not as easy as just saying, hey, we're going to go with them. We have to still do an RFP. We have to still go through the motions and then go to another meeting, approve them,
Oh, yeah,
X, Y, and Z. Now we're
It's
really
definitely
losing.
not a short process. There's no doubt. But what I'm saying is, if you the do-it-yourself program, the way the legislation was written, it allowed architects to basically avoid a lot of that bidding stuff, which is good and bad. Normally, what happens is the architect comes in, whoever it is, and then he bids out the ESCO and everything else. Here, the guy's in his back pocket, and I can tell you the ESCO is 75 to 85% of that project. Hands down, absolutely, because the ESCO is essentially the general contractor or construction manager. So I have no problem architect making their money. And
So
they
you're,
make
you're saying that it doesn't matter as long as we're using Spiesel and they decide, hey, we're going to contract whoever we
Absolutely
want on the DCO side. Not to say anything negative about DCO,
100%.
but okay, then
That's
that's
play.
that's of
Because this guy loves it to be with Spiesel.
course.
Because this is great. He doesn't have to bid. Deb wants to buy a gavel. She's got to go put it out for bid.
Yeah,
All of a sudden, I got a $30 million project and the guy
that makes perfect sense.
Oh, I love this.
That's
But then,
No, I just want to insert something
Yeah,
into the public
so-
record
yeah.
because I'm uncomfortable. I'm slightly uncomfortable with these allusions that are being made to, feather bedding and not nepotism. I think we understand that Spiesel has a reputation, right? We're their client, right? Ulka, having worked with her quite a bit, I think you get the sense that Ulka is not a slick talker or a snake oil saleswoman. So, and that's why I asked the question at the beginning of the presentation was why DCO, right? And Ulka explained why DCO. This is not as if it's some sort of rogue player in the space. It's a established player in the school space and one that's actually done good business and lucrative business in a neighboring school district. Part of the reason why they selected a trusted partner with whom they worked was really the timeline piece. Because Ulka was like, if this district wants to get this done within this timeline, we have to make a selection of a partner who we trust. Because if we end up going out and shopping it around, we're not going to make it. And I'm going to reiterate that. And however the board decides that they want to do this process, I would suggest that the idea of inviting energy consultants on short notice with little opportunity to review the specs, because remember that what you have in front of you was months of work. So any energy consultant company, they might come and fly by night offer off the cuff, but they're certainly not going to be able to give you a counter proposal that says, even if that's even legal, Kyle, which I don't think it is, they're not going to do that. So that's why I asked the question, and I think it's a fundamental question, is can we remove the timeline piece, right? What is the financial loss of saying, you know what, to heck with the incentives? What happens if we just say, let's not be constricted by this timeline? Is there still value to it, right? Is there still value to entering into, and then we can take all the time we like to decide how we want to run through this process. And so maybe that's the point to really drill down on. And I only asked it quickly here, but what are we really talking about in terms of the limitations, the loss of revenue that's associated with saying to heck with the incentives? We're going to take the time we need to do this right in a way that the board's comfortable with.
I agree with Dr. Cascone. So given how important this is, how much money we're talking about, this Spiesel is not a new player who we're meeting for the first time where we're just blindly putting trust. And I don't want these comments to be misconstrued as we're not going to do the right amount of due diligence. Absolutely, we should do all of the due diligence, but just to start over with all new players, knowing the timeline. And I'm not saying let's just work with the time crunch and feel like we have to be beholden to the deadline, but I also don't want us to be you know what, let's do every bit of due diligence. And then obviously we have to do the right amount and really dedicate time and commit to, even in our busy schedules, making time to address this in the time sensitive manner that it is. But it would be terrible if 2 weeks after we missed the deadline, we realized that was the best thing ever. And now we're talking about 40%. We can't afford that type of mistake either. So there's a difference between jumping into something without the proper research, analysis, due diligence, and dragging our feet too long because we're afraid to make a commitment after all of the all the calculations that we can do, right? And then not pulling the trigger the right way. Yeah.
Right. I think we're all saying the same thing. Pete said, what is the cost if we do nothing? And Dr. Cascone saying we need to have a fundamental question if we let the incentives expire. I think that is the first question. How much are we losing? If we're losing, for example, 100,000 or 200,000, just a number. And by doing some due diligence and getting other people to look at it, if we're saving 1 million, I mean, just throwing numbers, it'll be worth it. So we really can't proceed unless we know those numbers. Like, what are we going to lose if we do nothing and let it expire the deadline and take our time and think about it? So we need that. And I agree with Pete about us discussing all this at the committee of the whole rather than quorums, separate quorums. And over the next 2 weeks, we can all send in our questions and maybe have a detailed, number analysis, just like we did, for example, for the budget. We had all the details about what would happen in this scenario and that scenario, and we could have something similar. So at the committee of the whole, we can, discuss this further and have a clear picture.
So thank you for that, Sarika. I think, though, we have an opportunity, and granted, it's a conversation that's been going on some time, but it's a constructive, a productive one, I think, I think the administration needs to understand now, if possible, if there is majority opinion, majority discomfort, if you will, with just handing over the business to DCO. Because if there's majority consensus that you do not want to do that, then this is dead. You heard Greg say that if this has to go out for RFP, there's a bureaucratic step and process. He said 10 months. Let's say conservatively it's half that. It's 5 months. We're out of the box. So and I'm not suggesting if the board doesn't feel comfortable with that, like, I disagree with you at the end of the day, but is that a question that could be answered right now? Because if majority of the board feels as Pete does, that.
But we can't really answer that until we have some idea what the cost is of not deciding soon and letting it expire. Some approximate idea, right?
Well, I can tell you a couple things, and Deb, I'll lateral to you in a sec. Sorry. I think what I heard, if I heard it correctly, was that we're actually not getting any savings out of the PPA right now. So and of course, if the energy rates go up, then we'll be in the red even more than we already are. But that's the solar panels as they exist now are moot insofar as that goes. So that's going to happen regardless. In terms of what we stand to gain by entering into this agreement more expeditiously, well, yes, that I think is a number that's worth knowing. I think Joanne talked about it. You're talking about a 40% loss, but there is a connection to the referendum as well, right? Because if you take those savings off the table entirely or largely, and you don't have as much to do in direct install and HVAC, and you don't have as much to potentially repair roofs, restore roofs, then that really puts this, $90+ million referendum much more on the agenda, right? To be discussing and thinking about, are we really going to do this, right? And there may still need a referendum that needs to be done, but we may be able to postpone it. We may be able to scale it back. So the two are really very much connected. But to me, the fundamental question is if it's an ethical consideration, right? And I think that's what we're talking about, right? It's really an ethical question. is revenue relevant? And that's not for me to decide. That's a question for the board here. But if the majority of the board feels that it is an ethical question regarding whether we want to go with DCO because Spiesel, has chosen them and does work with them, then to me, it's off the table for the expeditious approach, because that's really the fundamental question that needs to be answered right now.
I don't think it's an ethical question at all. I think it's a pure dollars and cents, my wallet's in my left pocket question, hands down, without a doubt. And I know if I'm buying a driveway from my house, I'm not just giving it to the first guy. I'm going to go look around. I was like, right now, I'm just going to give it to this guy right here. He hasn't stepped foot. He doesn't have one energy bill in his hand. He doesn't have anything. And I know if we have a committee of the whole next meeting, invite a few of those players. I guarantee they'll come in, they could do their dog and pony show and do their thing, and it'll give us at least another person. And you don't have to RFP that. That's just basically having someone come and present to the board.
So the only thing I'll flag is, and I think I forget her name already, that she flagged this early on. The benefit of this company is that they are engineers, and engineers then moves you into the professional services
That's what
category.
are.
I don't believe they are. I
They
believe
are.
I think
They all have professional engineers on staff.
but it's not engineering services that they're providing. My understanding is the under vendors are primarily providing the services through non-engineers. They are energy people.
They all have
okay with this? That's what I was.
I know because I've been doing this for 23 years. All of the energy companies have professional engineers, stamped engineers on their staff, and that's how they basically do the energy surveys.
So if that's the case, you'd be able to do it as a professional service, and you'd be able to move more accelerated. If a vendor is not utilizing professional, then you'd have to go through bidding or competitive contracting, which would be a much.
And my point is just to bring them in, let them speak to it, and then they could talk to, oh yeah, you're right. There's no way. It almost gives you a confirmation of going, there's no way we're going to get this done in 9 months or 7 months, at least, for that amount of time. And I can tell you right now, like I said, they don't have any energy bills from us or anything. So DCO doesn't know this district. Spiesel knows this district. And I would absolutely, I'm not saying it'll all go away from Spiesel. I think Spiesel's been, Ken can attest to this. When we got rid of SSP, Spiesel really did a good solid for us during the referendum. They know our district, and a lot of their people in their company know our district. So
At the end of the day, I think it's as simple as this. We understand that Spiesel is a trusted vendor of the districts for a very long time, and we trust them, and we know that they're going to do the right job. If it's not a scenario where this has to go out to bid, if let's say we wanted to see other opinions besides DCOs, and maybe Spiesel can contract if we wanted to not utilize DCO, and just have that meeting. We plan on having the meeting for the public meeting, so we could all be educated properly. We can invite some of those players down, and they could give us a presentation, and we could make some quick decisions, hopefully, based upon that, and say, hey, Spiesel, we'd like you to consider these 2 other vendors right now within the next week or so, or give us some terms or whatever they're able to do. I think we're in the same place as we would be if we just started moving forward. It's just that they're going to now pick a different vendor to go. So let's just start having the meetings. And
so I just want
get
to,
it done.
just because obviously the administration is going to have to execute this plan. So I just want to make sure that I understand what's being proposed. Are we talking about, so we're talking about cold calling the other players in the energy savings space?
No, give us hey, Spiesel, let us know 2 other vendors that are direct competitors of DCO.
Fine. Okay. Fine. And so the suggestion is that we're inviting them to the June 17th committee of the whole?
No, we were planning on, or at least we just discussed, potentially having another meeting. So a quorum meeting, so we can all be educated at one time, just specifically on this item.
So, all right. So that would be just for the
And
sake
once
of.
again, I want to reiterate, I think it'd probably be beneficial to make it a Zoom meeting, so there's no issues with attendance and anything else. I think it's a lot easier to be able to attend that.
So, all right, I'm just trying to understand.
Yeah, no, I know.
because I have to execute this game
And
plan, and to be honest with you, it's a bit murky for me right now. So let me just see if I can clarify what we're
we
talking
just
about.
want to bring in someone else besides one person
But
before I give the
just
keys to the party to someone.
spitballing the idea and executing it respectfully, Pete, are two different things. So
No, because once you commit with these guys, you got a 15-year relationship with them. Because everywhere there's Spiesel, right next to it is a slash that says DCO Energy.
Pete, I understand.
let's go.
Yeah, but I'm just saying.
I understand. I'm not talking about the concept. I'm talking about the execution of the concept and the feasibility of that within the timeline that we have amidst the other things that are going on right now. Okay. So we're talking about scheduling a special public meeting of the board sometime in the next 2 weeks. That's right, correct?
Correct.
Going to Spiesel and saying that we want you to identify 2 DCO's competitors. Now, just a quick clarifying question, Deb. Can you speak to the hours, the time, the work that Spiesel has done with DCO in proposing this, in any kind of evaluations that they've done to come tonight to present? Is this something that she called Greg last week and said, hey, I want you to come in, or what did that look like?
This has been going back, this is an email, January 20th.
Okay,
from
that's
Steven
fine.
Siegel. right?
I'm good. Thank you.
Yeah, but I'm sorry. There's nothing here. They
I'm-
haven't done anything.
I'm not done with my
But they
questioning.
haven't done anything. That's all I'm telling you. They've done nothing, so we haven't lost any time.
So we're,
Let's start on the same sheet of
so
music.
so in the event that these competitors, and yes, I mean, there's money on the table, so they might very well jump at the opportunity if they're available to come on the 10th. What exactly are we telling them to do?
Because they're not going to have anything prepared.
What
Either did DCO.
They're here to review what this proposal is, right? To give us just an idea, because I'm assuming because these are all these state, federal plans, we're probably,
Without
DCO might be the right people. anyway.
Let's give,
No one
I
can leave
mean,
anything different.
sorry. Yeah.
From a perspective from somebody coming in, you have to give them specifications.
Right.
As to what you want them to accomplish.
Sure.
With
Yeah.
DCO.
Not a blank canvas.
Diesel has already given them that, and we've had conversations with Greg where he's looked at our solar generation and has concluded that it's costing us right now, right? And Steven Siegel told me, it looks like more than 4 cents a kilowatt hour for your solar versus your electric.
So is it out of the question to share that information with 2 other companies and say, hey, come as prepared as you possibly can? But here's my thing. I understand exactly what you're saying. What I'm saying is, though, just to be sure, all right, we trust the opinion of Spiesel, right? Just to be sure that we can get another idea from another vendor that might have some completely different idea for us, or completely different rates of some manner, shape, or form, and that we did a little diligence actually in looking at that. This is what we have. Come with what you can. And at least from there, we did meet with a couple other vendors to see if there's something so completely different from what DCO is saying. If
And-
from that
and you're
point
saying
in that meeting, hey,
Whoever Spiesel wants to bring in, like Spiesel's number 2 or 3 that they also work with. So
Exactly.
there shouldn't be a problem sharing the information that
and
they
quite
already
frankly,
have.
I will say, I trust Pete because this is his wheelhouse, okay? But I also trust Spiesel from our relationship with them. Just for the purposes of appeasing that, I would agree to do this because I think it would be a good idea to just get that information. But at the end of the day, I think DCO probably would end up being the vendor of choice based upon Spiesel's recommendations.
So,
and
just-
assuming we could negotiate the contract terms to what we want them to be and what we're okay with.
I'm on the same page with you. The question is to go back. We have a professional services agreement with Spiesel. It might say that we have no say in this third-party energy consultant anyway, because when I review contracts, a lot of that is built in that we don't have a say. We're trusting that we didn't negotiate that into it, right?
So Spiesel is your architect currently, but this would be a new contract, new scope. So it's not covered by what you've already negotiated with them.
If we're saying that we trust Spiesel and there's no debate on that, why don't we vote for the feasibility study and move that piece along at the same time asking for the other vendors to come in so that at least we're moving along? Like, are you guys agreeing that Spiesel should do a feasibility study?
Yeah, I said, can we
So
vote on
can we
phase
vote
1?
on phase 1?
That's
and
what I
pass
thought.
that because
Spiesel.
you guys are saying there's no issue
Spiesel, or
with
is it the
Spiesel.
energy consultant?
No, it's Spiesel's doing the
It's
feasibility.
not DCO at all.
Right, it's not DCO at all. So
No,
vote
wait, I
that
think-
to move.
No, it is. It's both.
It's whoever they hire to do it.
They are a package.
Well, then
deal
maybe,
the way
but
that
maybe
it's-
do the feasibility study anyways to move it along, and then
Right.
you're not No,
You're
you're not
already
though.
committing to
She said.
DCO.
you
No, because you're
asked
not
her.
committing
You
to phase
didn't.
2, 3, and 4.
No, you're just committing to the
Shit.
$26,000, which is good.
26, do the
then
feasibility.
you
We
could
have to
eventually
get the
take that
options.
and
You
say,
actually
hey.
know the numbers, right? And then you take it to bid.
And at the same time, in
same
parallel,
time, parallel
to
with
a couple
what
of
we're
these companies,
asking.
because
But at least it moves it along.
I don't
to the
disagree.
next
We should clarify with Spiegel if we do move forward.
You
Spiegel,
asked it tonight,
if-
though. You asked it.
They
if
said that we could just do phase 1.
Phase
And then
1.
meanwhile, while we're doing phase 1, we can go back to Spiesel and say, we'd also like to look at your number 2 and number 3 guy over the next couple weeks. Because guess what? Maybe the number 2 and number 3 guy are willing to give a better
correct.
rate or take less of a fee or whatever.
Right. So they said we don't necessarily have to move forward with phases 2, 3, and 4, which I'm clear about. But let's also clarify whether or not if we move forward with phase 1 and ultimately we do move forward with phase 2, if there's an option to swap out DCO.
She
there
didn't say that.
No, there is.
She said
There
that.
absolutely is, because I can tell you this, if I was a regular private company and company X wanted me to do a survey, I'm an architect. I don't really have those energy people on staff. You're going to reach out to an energy company, whether it's Siemens or Johnson Controls or whoever, or DCO Energy, and say, hey, guy, I need help on services. We got a 4-school district. Here's the utility bills, because there'll be certain things they'll need from the district. They'll give them, okay, I'm going to get you a assessment done in the next 4 weeks, or however it is. Then we will have that as a document. We just bought an energy study. There's value to that. Then that same value, you could go and say, okay, Art Spiesel, we definitely want you to be our point person for this. We're okay looking at it, do it yourself. I just think it would be a absolute strategic error not listening to a few other companies that are in this space. There's 600 and some odd districts in the state. DCO is absolutely one of the energy players in the state and are the 4 other companies that I said. So those 4 companies will come in a heartbeat. You call them, they will.
I'm just wondering, do you need that to do the feasibility?
So my
Are you
question-
okay to do that?
It was more of me pondering, but I had asked if
Still
they
good to
get this
hear it.
feasibility study, and we go with another company, will they accept those findings? Do we have to do it again?
Correct.
That's the question.
Probably not.
And that's maybe a question to ask. They
Yeah,
won't.
that could be
We
a
should-
question we
Yeah,
have
yeah.
in that next meeting.
But I can tell you this, what you have the feasibility study, and what happens is the school district loves it. Ooh, we like this. The next step becomes an investment grade audit. At that point, that's when you almost become on the hook. That's when you actually take those assessments and things that I thought were going to be, and you double check all your numbers and everything like that. That's when it becomes like you or the district is becoming committed to doing what they're going to do. And then if you don't, that's when you back out and pay the penalty.
And Kyle, that would be permissible within procurement regulations?
Assuming that the work is being done by professionally licensed engineers, it would be.
Okay.
Right, so you run the risk if they come here and they are not, and we cannot approve them as a professional service. And
If they are not professional
From
services,
bidding,
then you would have to open up the bid or competitive contracting. I guess it would depend on the nature of what presentation they're giving.
Right.
If it's a very generic presentation about what they do, then I think you might still be okay. But if they came here and gave you like
that's
specific
what I'm saying,
details
like,
of it,
can't give
you,
them Technical.
I can tell you this gentleman here was not a professional engineer. I can tell you that for a fact.
and that
And that's okay, because I did what he does. This was me at school district meetings. He's definitely not a professional engineer, but he does have, just like I had so many professional engineers that worked for me and did this work. They're the bunch of little nerdy eggheads that run around and do the stuff, and they're good at what they do because they go from school to look at building envelope, CHP, whatever, which I think is mentioned in here, the boilers, the chillers, the lighting. Are we going to be a huge project for them? No, but the solar is a hugely attractive thing because it comes with such a big carrot and money.
right. So if it's being done that way, where the work is being done by non-licensed engineers, then I think you're in the realm where you have to bid out or do competitive contracting rather than being able to simply award it to them.
Yeah.
So just to hover over that for a second, I just want to make sure that, listen, I know it's gone on for a while, but again, ultimately it's our responsibility administratively to move this forward. Kyle, you said something before relative to the nature of these presentations, these prospective presentations that we're talking about. You said, provided that they are generic and speak to generally what they do, they would be okay.
We heard tonight.
But
Correct.
right.
Correct. They can't be coming to you and giving you a specific proposal because it has to go through the bidding process. If they are not,
So basically what they did tonight, it would be permissible for another contractor to come in and do.
I'd be comfortable with that. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. If they can talk about services, if they want to talk about why the district might want to open this up to bidding, so to speak. It's not
What, I just thought we were talking about not having to bid on this.
We are. I'm just trying to clarify that these presentations that we're talking about, one of my responsibilities in addition to the board attorney is to protect the board from liability. So I want to make sure that the nature of these presentations is permissible.
Right.
Right. And what I asked is so we could invite Honeywell or any of these companies in to give a similar presentation and we would be permitted to do that.
Right. So in the realm of professional services, I'll use legal services as the best example. When you are soliciting legal services, when you selected me a few years ago, you didn't have to go through a bidding process. You could have just asked, you could have reached out, called some attorneys and say, give us proposals. You called it, you do an RFP, you did it formally, but you didn't have to do that because professional services does not require the prior advertising. So when I came in, I think we did it via Zoom. No, we did it in person. When I came in, you already had the proposal from Abrazazi and McDermott. You had proposals from various other firms. Those proposals were firm offers essentially of what services the firms would provide to you. You were able to hear from me and then make a selection based on that. If it is not a professional service, if it's just a person who went to college, got a degree in finance, and has now entered into this. Finance is not a professional service. It's not something that is a higher degree of education that is essentially subject to licensure. Exactly. So your professional services are your attorney, your architect, your engineer, your board physician. Those are those which you can do a shorter process for procurement. If it's just a generic company, we don't have any engineers, we don't have any of those. The only way you can procure them is either going through the general bidding process, where you then are bound by whoever is the lowest bidder. So long as they're responsible, you are required by law to award the contract to them, or competitive contracting, which we did with the custodial services last year. It's a little bit more involved. You set forth criteria. We're going to award X number of points to price. We're going to award X number of points to experience, and you can evaluate by that. To do that process, you'd have to get permission from the Division of Local Government Services first. You have to do a resolution authorizing competitive contracting. Then you advertise requests for proposals via competitive contracting. The vendors respond to you, you evaluate them, and then you award after that process. So I honestly can't say whether or not the types of services we're envisioning qualify as professional services or not. It's going to depend on what role the engineer has in the process. If it is under the auspices of an engineer, as I understand PPO was going to be, DCO was going to be, then it should qualify as a professional service. If it is instead, yes, we have engineers, we employ engineers, but they have nothing to do with this, then that's not a professional service. Yeah.
So just to kind of work through a couple steps here. So I think just thinking out loud. So I think step one is Deb and I need to follow up with Spiesel, right? And just to ascertain, this is the will of the board, which is that we're interested in hearing from a couple other players to get some comparisons. Would that have any impact on contract? Do you foresee that, that being a problem ultimately in this person coming in after the assessment and accepting the findings? So do some due diligence there with Spiesel. Then we would ask for a recommendation from Spiesel on two other firms that they would be comfortable bring them up to speed, in order to come and do a similar presentation for the board as was presented tonight from DCO, essentially. Okay. Date. Kim had mentioned June 10th. It's 2 weeks from today. Is looking at your calendars, does that work for you?
I'm out of the country, but
Okay.
I can try and zoom in.
I mean, that's up to the board.
I would just suggest, particularly given the tight turnaround time, it'd probably be beneficial to open it up to Zoom. It'd still be a public meeting, but even then, if someone who can't actually attend, they could watch the video afterwards to catch up, so you're not informed.
Brittany,
Would the 9th work? Or does it have to be a Wednesday?
It doesn't have to be, right?
I don't know.
Kyle?
All we need is 48 hours notice that we're holding a special meeting. So, and all we do is post that on the website now under the new law. So it's much easier.
Like a 5 6, 7 o'clock type of.
You could notice a public meeting anytime. I have a client that meets on 10 a.m. on Thursdays. It's very convenient because the meetings go very quickly.
How do we do that for the public though?
They could watch it.
Okay.
3 o'clock.
June 10th would work for me.
Brittany, you going there? We're good.
I'm going to Canada for work, so I don't know my schedule, but I will do my best. So I'm one person, right? I can,
Sarika, you
I
said
can
you
listen
could?
back too, so.
10th is good for me. 9th also, as long as the meeting ends early, not too late.
The 9th isn't great for me. I mean, the 10th I can definitely do.
The 9th is not good for me.
I could do the 10th, and I would request if we could do it at like 3 p.m. If not, I'll do it whatever we can. But if we could do it early in the day, that would even be better.
The only thing is if it's too early, are we cutting out the public? I don't know.
I mean, you're cutting out the public from people that work at night,
true.
you know, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can't do 3 o'clock, but I could do a little
3:30. Yeah, 4.
4 o'clock.
4
4
o'clock.
o'clock is good.
4 o'clock. Okay.
Wednesday, the 10th.
And like I said, if
4
we invited a couple of these companies, I would bet my dollar that they will show up.
All right. let's do
Because this
that.
is an opportunity they didn't have on their radar, and it's a good one. And I work for Honeywell. Don't invite Honeywell. Invite Schneider. Invite Allergen. Invite Amoresco. Invite, there's a bunch of them. And Spiesel works with all of them. I know this because I work with Spiesel. I work with SSP, who we fired. I mean, it's,
So we're looking
Have them
for,
choose two, right?
we're looking for two,
couple should be good.
couple, and I'm assuming then we'll schedule,
Their top 2 other choices.
times,
Yeah.
right? Each contractor or vendor would have a specific time
You give them
slot within
20,
the
30
meeting.
minutes. You give them,
Okay.
that's plenty of time. You give them 20 minutes,
Let's
10
put
minutes.
some Q&A.
Q&A. And if anything, it still educates the board because if you keep hearing ESCO and ECM, it'll eventually resonate, and then you'll have a better understanding of, okay, what this is really about and how the legislation works and everything else. So
What
it is
we-
a good thing.
But they're not going to be able to present a rate or anything.
I know. DCO didn't either.
Right.
That was they're going to be generic, but it's going to be very
But are we
conversational.
looking for them to just give a lower percentage or something? Like,
No, not at all, because they would be
like-
in no
Well,
position to do
I
that.
think it's fair to say DCO did give you a rate because you have the rate on.
yeah,
this.
I mean,
Well,
like,
it would be
the end point of
but
this
But it's
is,
through DCO. It's with DCO.
is what?
Yeah.
Just so I'm clear, the end point of I mean, I understand they may have a different idea about how to go with it, but if, to me, this is still a question of like, okay, is DCO, is it a question of how much better one would do than the other, basically is what it's coming down to, right?
But for me, it'd be a purely financial decision because I know all these companies that work in that space.
So purely
They did
financial
pretty good.
decision though, right? Like if the only thing would be a rate. then.
Well, we also
You're-
don't even know what the rate is.
We don't know what the
If
project
This
is
is,
yet.
the number
no
that they
idea.
have there is not the actual rate.
This is just the survey.
And they also said that it's going to be negotiated thereafter a flat fee, right?
Right.
And I don't think it's necessarily like the object to get them to give us their rate at that meeting, but more of to see, hey, this is the way we would go about this project and how we would have different ideas and just doing that diligence. We can negotiate with any one of the 3 of those companies what the rate would be thereafter, right? So
it's really the procedure about the entire project.
Assuming they're a professional service, you can negotiate with them. If they are not a professional service, you then would advertise for bids or competitive contract.
or we would say, hey, Spiesel, get us a better rate because they're our contractor or they're our
Right. That's why I was saying if they could
our
provide us a
people.
sample of what an energy survey looks like,
architect.
it'll be helpful for people to see it because usually an energy survey becomes the starting point of where the district or the customer is going to go. So all of a sudden it's going to go, hey, you're not doing boilers, you're not doing chillers, you're not doing rooftops, you're doing solar or whatever it might be. And that's at least it could help educate us what it looks like. And then because neither company, whether DCO or anyone coming in here, they don't know what this project's going to be.
But then how do we decide still if neither of them know what
I'm
it's going to
guessing
be?
that
How
the
would we
way that-
decide in the end which
We
one we
wouldn't
want to
decide
go?
at that point. This isn't like in a half an hour, you're like, oh, let's go with that guy.
No, but the other
Right.
thing is we're
It's more
assuming that
educationally
anybody,
based.
Yeah.
we're assuming
Yeah,
any of
yeah,
the
yeah.
other 2 vendors or partners who Spiesel deems worthy enough to bring in. Now it's like all 3 on there that they have a trusted relationship or at least think that they're up to par to do this work. So basically it will come down to the rate, right? Unless they give us ideas that are
Yeah,
so far.
The
different
scope and the
than
rate.
each other.
Exactly. Mhm. Yeah.
I would just I want to know at the end of the day, because again, this is nowhere near anything I do, but like, what parameters are we ultimately deciding on to pick whether it's DCO or.
We don't know that yet. That's still so far down the road. You won't know that yet.
I know, but we are
think
kind of on a
I should circle
timetable though,
back
right?
And I will just do an RFP with competitive contracting, because I don't see this working. from
I
a
think
procurement
spending a
standpoint
half
without-
an hour with two companies is well worth my time of 12 years being on the board. Absolutely. For the largest decision I'm going to make, if I'm still here, absolutely.
But
But I think Greg's question.
Do it this way.
Deb, I think Greg's question's a fair one though, right? Which is, what is the criteria? And I think this is really important for us because we have to be able to articulate to these companies what we're looking for them to do in order for them. I know it's saying, well, they're going to jump at it because it's money, but they also have a professional reputation. They're going to want to do a good job. So they're going to want to understand like what exactly is it that you want us to present to you. They're going to possibly need information for us to frame that presentation, but ultimately, I think anytime we're essentially interviewing prospective partners, right? And so anytime you interview anybody, when we interview candidates for jobs, we have a set of criteria that we're looking for, that we're evaluating as we're listening to them. So I think there's a wisdom to what you're saying. It certainly would help us in terms of our conversations with the vendors.
I think having them come in, they do this every day, whether it's High Point or Cape May or whoever it is in between. And okay, you're coming to the first time you're coming to a customer. You're going to go give an ESIP presentation. They do this all the time. It's the one area where you can get work done without going through capital budget. I mean, whether we RFP.
So is it fair to ask you that what could have they have said that would have made you more comfortable with just choosing them at this point?
Thank you.
For me,
Yes, that
nothing.
articulates it well, because I don't quite know what I'm looking for the energy consultant partner, right?
No,
So
for me, it would be nothing because I would want them to bid it out because that's how normal traditional bid practices work within schools. And especially for such a large number, I would love to be that guy. Oh, you're
But
going to
how are they going to have numbers for us this early on? We're not even out of the gate at stage one. How are they going to be able to
And the
bid
numbers
everything out?
coming from Spiesel, not from DCO.
Right.
Really, right?
Yeah, right now.
I think to Deb's point, though, if the ultimate conclusion is we're going to bid this out, whether competitive contracting or not, aren't we just delaying that process?
Not
by
really.
having them come in?
If I have to wait 2 extra weeks to have 2 companies come in and talk to me about something I'm not that educated on, I'm going to wait 2 weeks. Especially if this is 10, 20, 30, 40. I know it's not going to be 90, but that's a lot of money.
No.
but what I'm saying, Pete, at the end of that 2 weeks, I still won't know on what basis to decide who to go for, right? So,
But at least you'd be a little more.
but we have to
You'd
decide.
be a little more knowledgeable.
I mean,
I
listen,
think we're talking two
if,
different things. I
if,
think-
if we just looked at it maybe from this perspective, I like, once again, I understand where you're coming from, Pete. I think it's not a bad exercise to do because we're going to be educated. Even just this conversation, I don't think it's, ridiculous that we're having it. I think we're uncovering things that make sense that we didn't think of before, and now we're educating ourselves. So at the end of the day, let's just look at it from this perspective, if this makes sense to everybody. All 3 vendors potentially are offering the same rate, okay? Who are we most comfortable with after they present to us what their ideas and plans are? And who do we feel that we might have that most trust in, even though it was presented from our current trusted advisor that one group was, but hey, listen, it doesn't mean that we might say, hey, you know what, group number 2, wow, I really feel more comfortable with them. I like their different ideas that they presented us that this other company did not. And it's a different approach. That's the only way I could see this making sense.
That's exactly how it goes down. Exactly. We've lost jobs where we were lower because they had different approaches and different things that resonated better with the board and they were more comfortable with them. So you're absolutely right. I'm just saying for 2 weeks to wait 2 weeks to see a couple more companies, why would I not want to do that? That's all.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
If this has to be
with that.
decided,
If anything, it's an education
Based
for us
on
to be able to
feedback
make a
tonight, but
$90 million
little bit,
decision.
Maybe it fixed it, right?
Yeah,
I think what's going to be important is, and I think the next step is after Deb and I speak with Spiesel, reporting back to the board in the form of an email of what came of that conversation, anything relevant. And hopefully it's like, no, that's fine. We're good with that.
Tell them to listen to the recording of this meeting.
I don't think they're going to want to do that.
Oh.
I wouldn't want to do that.
That's good.
We'll give them time markers.
I'm glad we did it, to be honest. I was like, if you're going to make this big a decision and we go south, we're left holding the bag. And I don't want to see this district like holding the bag on such a big decision, So all good. Should we continue on?
Thanks for that. I appreciate it. I know that was a 30 odd minute tangent, but it was important I think for Deb and I to understand what our next steps are and that we're acting
Yeah,
accordingly.
I agree. I mean, first time the board has seen an energy company or even who's met Spiesel before. I have.
All right, let's do this.
Exactly. So let's see. Okay. So report of the superintendent, or we're gonna say it's posted.
I will submit as my report the terrific recognition ceremony that we had this evening,
Thank you, sir. HIB report,
as reported in closed executive.
Roger that. And committee reports. So CNI, I guess it's CNI policy, budget, finance, and then labor negotiations. So whoever wants to go first.
So do you want a break?
I'm just wondering, I need to use the restroom. Right?
Well,
Do we want to take a, like
Do
a
we
5-minute
continue with that?
recess?
Done. 5-minute break.
Okay.
Roger that.
We'll be back.
I just want to mention that a parent did say, where are the cookies this year and so we owe them cookies at some point. We'll double it up next year. I don't know, but that's why I laughed just at the end there because we forgot cookies and lemonade. It always makes things feel better, right?
Ray, were you going first? Or,
I can go- I can-
oh, Kim was going first?
All right. I'll do the policy committee report. So it was the first reading, right? We discussed.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Would it be out of the question to consider moving the committee reports to the next meeting and just go to vote to get 10:30 and get?
Or we
people
could
out
just
of here?
say we're going to post all the committee reports will be posted on the minutes. The minutes will be posted.
So we'll be posting the minutes
Fine
on
with
the
that.
website.
Works?
Yes, you will.
All right, good deal.
I mean, I will.
Okay.
All right, we will now move on to the next item of business, which is questions or comments from the public on. Oh.
Can I just, okay. I'm
I'll put a
sorry.
pin in it. Go.
I'm really going to be a buzzkill. I have two things. It's about the committee reports. We've talked about in previous meetings that the subcommittee reports, like how it's functioning is not working. After the first round, we spoke about the fact that the subcommittee reports need to go out in a timely fashion on the Friday when the agenda comes to us so that people can be informed. And on Friday, I was the only one that sent anything out by Friday, the CNI. And so now we've had, so that was round 2 of the subcommittees. And I think that sometimes perhaps like when I don't know what this like, so for instance, buildings and grounds, like all of this stuff that was just discussed tonight was discussed in a subcommittee. We didn't find that out. The majority, those of us that did not sit on buildings and grounds, budget and finance, didn't find that out until 3:00 on Tuesday when we got an email. Had some subcommittee report come out on the Friday like it's supposed to, and that includes whether it be policy or whether it be personnel, which another thing came up with personnel, like had reports come out, like, so we're not functioning efficiently how it's supposed to be, not to mention that it's already been discussed that we need to leave longer length of time for these subcommittees so that we're not so rushed through, like that's its own thing. But so now I know it's late and we're going to skip through, but I know that, for CNI, I've had, based on my subcommittee report that went out on Friday, I've had 3 different board members, and this is what it's supposed to do. I have 3 different board members contact me about the test return policy that was discussed in my report because they want to openly discuss it in public now, because that's when we're supposed to, so I don't, whether, we're going to say, oh, it's posted, but then we're missing out
No,
on
I
that.
think we should still do it at the next meeting is what I was saying. I wasn't saying to not do it at all, but whatever, let's do it now if you want.
But no, I mean, that's fine if we're actually going to talk about it, but I'm saying that the function of how we're doing these, because also in part of my conversations, with members, when I've talked to them over this past few days, is the hybrid not working? Like, and all of them said, we delve so much deeper, like for those that are in these subcommittees that they're in, they feel that they're delving into the information so much deeper than at a cow, that it's important, but that it's not running the way it needs to be so that everything comes out in a timely fashion so that we don't end up feeling blindsided if you're not on that committee. I don't know if that makes sense. I think it does. But so we have to really be good about the Friday. That's fine if we want to discuss it are we saying that we're going to discuss it not at the special meeting? We're going to discuss it at the committee of the whole on the 17th? No. Yeah.
Yes. So may I?
Yeah, please.
Okay. So, obviously there's been, Joanne has spoken in public about it. We've had, and I understand that there's perhaps a larger subset of parents who are quietly unhappy about it. But we've had, let's face it, a small, very small number of constituents who have been outspoken about this and have repeatedly come to public meetings, that even as recently as today emailed again about it, notwithstanding the fact that when it was brought up a couple of months ago, what did I say? Mr. Howard's here, can speak to it as well. We hear you. We want to conduct an analysis of what's been going on this year in terms of assessment practices and feedback practices, and we will be prepared to give a full presentation at the June 17th Committee of the Whole. And that is still the plan, by the way. Is that right, Mr. Howard? Yeah. Roger that. So that remains the plan. And that's not to say that I think having conversations in subcommittees are productive and things of that nature, but that still remains the plan to present a very cogent presentation on findings to the board at the June 17th Committee of the Whole, just for further discussion. And then obviously as we work over the course of the summer.
Perfect. So
So-
we're going to discuss it.
Yes, ma'am.
On, no matter what, we're discussing it on June.
That has been the plan for some time now. Yes.
Okay.
The only problem with that, and I'm not pushing for it to be tonight, is tonight was much deserved recognition, but that took like an hour and 15, hour and a half. I am not complaining, but there are always issues that take longer than the time allotted, and then we're here very late. Not a complaint, just a factual observation, right? It's 10:30. So many meetings go into this time frame, and then a lot of things get shelved because we can't get to it, either because certain conversations go longer than expected, which at this point it should be expected. But I feel like we punt a lot of things just because. So the reason why it was even going to be brought up tonight, the return of tests, was because the CNI meeting happened last Wednesday. And I've been bringing it up since February, but because of contracts and budget, I was like, okay, well, if it's not going to be implemented, even if we went that way until next year, I'll wait until now. But now there's another time sensitive issue of the roofs and the solar and all legitimate issues we have to deal with, but all time consuming and time sensitive.
Yeah. And listen, I understand, as board members, the board as a whole represent and advocate for whether it's issues you feel strongly about or issues that constituents have brought to your attention. And I think that's where it is important, I think, to trust that, I'm not just giving you lip service, right? Like the administration is going to honor those concerns, and that they're going to play out in a time frame that makes sense, right? Because changing the test return policy, and I've been pretty forthright from this beginning, it was never changing mid-year. It's not good practice. It just was never going to happen, and I was pretty forthright about that from the beginning. But I also was forthright in saying that it's absolutely a practice and a policy, if you will, that we can revisit. But let's evaluate. First of all, let's understand the process and the history that got us to making that decision in the first place. But then let's also evaluate how we've addressed it this year, and give the administration an up. Because truthfully, we're not assessing a practice in January, but it is perfectly appropriate for us to be assessing those practices in the spring. And truthfully, that assessment continues into the early summer months, in advance of bringing to the board, for example, student handbooks in August for approval, at which we talk about changes to grading policy and things of that nature. So it all happens within the cadence of the year. And I think I'd like to think that the board can trust that, yes, things get pushed off, but there's also things that we know cannot be pushed off. And I acknowledge that this was not something to be pushed off. Now, again, like I said several months ago, and I agreed to it, was give us an opportunity amidst all the other things that are going on to conduct our evaluative process. And so even the conversation that happened at the CNI meeting, I would argue is premature, because maybe Art provided an update on where we are in that evaluative process, but that evaluative process is not complete, but will be complete in time for us to give a full presentation on the 17th.
I mean, he talked about surveys that went out, the data collected. I mean, that's what he's, spoke about, and that it's still ongoing.
Yes. Right. And it'll be complete in order for us to be able to present in public. And that will be basically an administrative recommendation as to where we go from here. But I don't want the board to think that that's fallen off the radar. But I do think it's important to reiterate that was the plan when we talked about it a couple months ago, was that we were going to follow our process and then present to the
I don't
board.
recall that date. I got to tell you, just so
So-
you know, and I don't have that, like, it wasn't discussed in CNI that
Mm.
like, hey, we're presenting this on June 17th.
So, yeah, so let's either discuss it or not discuss it, but not discuss about discussing it. Like, it's getting quite late.
June 17th, we're on. It's going to be the hottest ticket in town.
And to reiterate what Kim said, I'm not on many committees. I obviously, when we have our leadership meeting, I get some debriefs, and Dr. Cascone and I talk probably quite frequently. If we can email just the board, because like I was just literally texting Kim going, I don't know, I can't even find the CNI meeting notes, and I do want to know. I was like, I still want.
Did everyone get
see
my
what-
share file?
I'm getting those weird
Like,
look
you
over
saw
there.
the CNI notes. How did you see the CNI notes? Because I shared it from the Google Drive. Did everyone see
I'm
that?
just saying, if you could just email them to the board, just
So can we make
and-
sure that, as you said, Kim, if the notes are supposed to come out when, Friday?
By
Can we
Friday, by
actually get
Friday.
them? Yeah, because
Friday or say Monday at the latest, because things do happen. But
There
again,
were
it gives the board
a lot
members
of
at least
emails.
24, 36 hours, 48 hours to
It got
review and
yeah.
have questions. Because I know, like here, since we didn't have a committee of the whole, before we post items, I have just a couple of discussion questions on a few items because I haven't had a chance to talk about them.
that's fine.
So I'm going to spend a few minutes, and they're very quick, like 10-second answers. So it's not like they're sort of softballs, but it's still, that's what we didn't get to do next month. So
One of the things Deb is, she may have spoken about this, is through Diligent, sort of formerly board docs, sort of still board docs. This is the platform that we use for policy. It's called Diligent Community, and it's an online workflow solution, which I think could really help with what we're talking about, right? Because all of this flow back and forth of notes and things of that nature, it's all on a single platform, as opposed to,
Dr. Z.
yeah,
We did not determine that we would move forward with a committee platform, though.
we did not determine,
Well,
or
we didn't budget for it. We were doing the board agenda and minutes and the policy piece.
okay, well, we
But
can,
not- but we can
look at the
there, it's
community.
an option.
There are other options, and and I've been thinking about this for some time, is that there are a lot of different digital workflow platforms that we can look at. Some may be more cost effective than others, but I just think it would make it a lot easier for the board for this flow back and forth. But Kim's right, because if the subcommittee structure only works if the people who are not in that subcommittee are privy to the information prior to the public meeting. There is some degree of trust, right, that comes from the other board members to those committee members, but there has to be sort of that disclosure of the information. And we can look, I mean, I know it's difficult when you're facilitating a meeting to take notes. I'm not very good at it. And a lot of times administrators are facilitating the conversation points, but maybe it's something where, you have somebody that's sort of appointed for that meeting to be the note taker, just so, and then you're just sort of polishing them up.
Well, and I know Ray, like, we want to, on policy, like Ray is bringing up for the next committee meeting on policy, like the three policies that have procedural things, of which the committees is one of them,
Yeah.
right? Like, so that we can look at it and update it so that it is clear that this is how it's going to run, right, Ray?
It was take a look at our bylaws and about the committee structure, just so we can, like Kim said, we can introduce
Put it
good
in writing
housekeeping,
somewhere,
good
like,
housekeeping on,
that's good.
yeah.
Standard SOPs, standard operating procedure.
I am familiar.
I think the interesting thing just becomes when we had a few years ago subcommittees, we rolled right into committee of the whole, and it was just committee of the whole by itself. The hybrid I'll be the first to say it. I think the hybrid confuses things. Like if I was you guys next year, I'd either be going that way or that way. I wouldn't go in the middle because it's sort of like it becomes disjointed and sort of like, oh, I didn't show up, didn't do this, and like I'm texting Kim, well, I haven't seen those notes. Like I haven't seen any notes, to be honest, and I want to see them, but I sort of know what's going on. But if you're a new board member, you want to see them because you want to still see what the heck's going on. So I think duly noted. Past that question items on public item only. I guess I'll ask my questions just because we're here. Items 21 and 22. That's the book guy, City of Thieves. Anything? I'm gonna wait for Dr. Cascone. Questions on the agenda or resolutions. I don't want to pull them because I don't think they're important. It's not 21 and 22, the items, the author Alexander London, Indian Hill. I got it right here if you want to see it. I just didn't know. We don't normally pull those or have a resolution. I guess that's a new speaker. Any knowledge on it, or is anything?
Yeah, so this book is not it's not currently in the school library.
Oh.
This book is not currently in the school library. It's not currently within the curriculum, so technically it counts as curriculum. Thus the board approval,
Got
and
it.
then he
Okay.
is also
The
being
author.
approved
Yeah.
as a speaker because the board made that change to their policy a few years back.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah,
And then 35, I think, Deb, the reverse auction. Do we do that every year? That's on the agenda.
No, I believe this is every 3 years. I
Okay.
wasn't here,
Yeah, I don't remember
when
it every
I
year.
wasn't here when it was last done.
That's just basically enabling us to essentially get better rates or at least put it out for bid. That's-
Yeah, it's,
okay.
you have limited options to how to procure your.
All right, cool. That's the and then the third one, which I'm not going to read. So everyone's number 36. That's basically from the state. The state was urging each of the districts to adopt a formal resolution to urge relief from rising public school employee health care costs. So I think from Cape May down to up to High Point, they were basically asking each district to adopt it. So this is our resolution to adopt it, saying, it's crushing us, 31.9% premium for this past year, et cetera, et cetera. Any other items? The only items I was going to pull, or I guess we're not going to vote on 39 and 40.
Right, so I was just gonna say, do we need a motion to pull 39 and 40?
You need a motion to table, yes.
Okay.
So I motion to table items 39 and 40.
Do we get a
I
second?
need a first and a second or
Second.
something.
Thank you.
Vote.
And we have to vote on that? Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Any other items any board members want to talk about? Pull? I didn't see any retirements, any donations, anything that stuck out of me. I mean, we do have the resolution for the Schedule Bs that for the fall sports. Other than that, I think it's a lot of the regular stuff back and forth. I think there's extraordinary aid, which was number 38.
I think you had one donation from.
Number 37. Is
But yeah.
Yeah,
that the one you're seeing?
the microscopes.
Yeah, 37. Okay, I'll pull that one. Any others? I see none. So we'll vote from items 1 through 36, pulling 37. And we'll vote from 38 and 40 to 41.
No, you tabled 40.
What was 40? 38 and 41. Oh, yeah, there you go. Yeah, thank you. Got it. Yep. Okay. Deb, does that work?
Yeah.
So we'll just read 37 afterwards. So can we get a motion for those items?
Move.
Any
Second.
second? Thank you. Roll call? Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, for moving on. Item 37, acceptance of non-monetary donation, microscopes previously owned by Rutgers University. Resolved that the board accept with gratitude a non-monetary donation of microscopes previously owned by Rutgers University. Can I have a motion?
Move.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Roll call? Yes, thank you.
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 Yes. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
All right, old business, item P. Any old business?
Well, I mean, it's just a quick comment I want to make is neither old nor new, but I was pushing for this subcommittee meetings last year, and now looking back at how this we're in a crunch now because of this expiring subsidies, and also we've lost the reverse auction benefits, and how this could have been actually, if there were subcommittee meetings last year and there was a deep dive, we would have been prepared last year, knowing that the budget would take up all our time. We could have actually started working last year from it. I think partly this COW, Committee of the Whole, kind of dilutes the in-depth discussion. And that's my feeling, that it would have, that's what led to not having been prepared. because of lack of subcommittee meetings and in-depth discussions. Just a comment.
Potentially, yes, agreed. Any old business? Greg, your microphone's on. Just messing with you.
I will just say as part of old business that for tomorrow, these subcommittee reports have to be emailed to Giovanna. However, you want them to be public facing, like mine, when I gave them to you, have links. I removed the links to go to the public because some of the information isn't open to the, may not be available to everybody. But those have to be emailed to Giovanna in order for her to put them up on the website tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. New business? I see none. I don't think I have any new business. Questions for comments from the public from the public? I don't see any. Thank you. And we don't have to go in executive session. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Move.
Second? Thank you all.